I show one timeline which NN group talks about. Which is this. Yes. So UX basically helps you with this. So in the starting, it's all jungle basically. It's going to spend more time there initially. And the management think, why we're wasting so much time? Why to do user research? Why to talk to the user? We know what needs to be done. Let's build it. Right? Ultimately, what happens? Most of the project fails here. Most of the project fails here because then the developer has to do patching work on top of it, because they never understood the root cause of it. And there are a lot of iterations coming back to back. You keep changing the product. Ultimately, your product might fail also. It might become a successful or it might become completely a failure. So I agree, don't go to your company tomorrow and say, I am a UX designer now and you need to do this, right? You can't bring that change in one day. And I think the management also knows about it, but they have their own constraints. I go to a lot of companies say that we can't use this software issue because we cannot externalize our information, right? We can't simply externalize our information. So we can't use this particular tool. We can't do that, which is okay. You need to work in your limits itself. But even if you're a little bit aware about the mental model, for example, let's say if you're aware about mental model, for that you don't have to go to the user. You can think yourself as a user and you can design something that, right? Because now if you have been a web design designer, you know that how things work. But how, instead of just imposing, let's say you like a red color, instead of thinking of color psychology, you can do within your limits. And you can apply that into your designs basically. So of course you can't change the company. It has to be a cultural shift for companies. I was speaking to someone recently. He works in a very big company. He said, we are still in waterfall method only. Doesn't matter whether we use agile, whether we use scrum, whether we use lean. There's so-called process in our company known as agile framework. But typically that model is waterfall only. Agile is a certification. Those who don't know, Agile is a certification itself, which talks about how companies can build a better product. But ultimately, in the background, they're all working in a traditional mindset only. It has to be a waterfall method for large projects, which is okay. Nothing wrong in it till the time the product is getting built. But you can be a little bit more conscious about it. That's the main thing. And when I do this training of with product managers and all, I know that they're not going to do this, but at least they're aware about in their back of their mind to be there. So let me go back. Let's close this application. So what is user researchers or user-centered designers? You need to keep this in mind. This is what I was trying to show you here. You have the user needs, you have a business goals and technological information. You have to have a sweet spot between them. And that's why I'm saying learning technology is very, very important for you guys. Keep yourself updated. Like nowadays, AI is coming. So how can we leverage AI to do something? Right? How can we use AI to make our product better? You know, Blinkit, all of you use, most of you must be using Blinkit nowadays. So all belong to Metro now, like Delhi, NCR. Blinkit is very popular. In Blinkit, there is a feature known as recipes. If you must have seen it. Recipes, right? You know how it is created? They are using simple AI. With the chat GPT, they are creating a recipe. They don't have any human there. It's all automated recipes. They are all automated recipes they have. They write an article with chat GPT, put it into the application, directly plugged in there, means with the API, automatically an image is posted there, recipe is ready. So they are using AI, which is basically can help some users, but user knows that, oh, they are also putting recipes there, and we can know it. So, and they are not putting manual manpower, so there is no money required there. So they are leveraging the technology there.
But I didn't understand why they started putting recipes in a grocery.
Again, you know, desirability to have more engagement. Like you said, we should never look at those recipes, right? You will say that. I will agree with you that I don't even look at the recipes. But maybe we are not people who are very cooking enthusiastic, or you are not basically starting to learn cooking. But people who are starting to learn cooking, it could be a helpful thing for them.
Actually, there are ingredients. Ingredients are given so you can buy the
Yes,
ingredients.
of course they are doing upselling also.
Yeah, and what did you forget? What's not there?
Yes,
Your
yes.
stock that you need to buy.
Correct.
That's where it is the major use.
Major is you see, women now know it better than us.
I just read the recipe and realized that I needed another.
Exactly.
Correct,
Exactly.
correct.
That's the use case you
Yes, yes. So based on the recipe, suggesting with the product also there. So related products is coming there. If you go to Myntra nowadays, there is a new thing which is coming in e-commerce. Go to Myntra, if you go to Ajio and Life, there is an icon now separately built for find similar. It was there previously, related product was there, but now there is a separate button for it, find similar. So there basically they will be using some AI with the technology to bring this forward. Like Samsung S24 recently went very viral. They are bringing AI features to it. Right, you can circle on anything and you can search now. So you should be aware about technology and what technologies available can help you do something. If you don't know about it, for example, if you go to Book My Show or any kind of Zomato, if you want to add your credit card, it can open a camera to take a picture and can extract the numbers from it. Very old feature, I'm not saying it's a new feature, it's an old feature, but using technology at the right place at the right time is important over here. And all are doing this basically. So build your landscape in technology. Try to understand what is coming new in the market and what is available and what is the right time to use it is important. I still remember there's a movie known as Avatar. Most of you must have seen it. Avatar movie by James Cameron. So Avatar movie was with him in a script format in 90s. He had that script with him. But it took him 15 years to make it actually a movie. The reason is, he said, at that time I did not have the right technology to build it. I had the vision, but I did not have the right technology to build it. So, similar thing, yeah. So they built it later. He built that later when he thought that this is where I can take technology and use the technology at the right place. Actually, that's one of the movies for the first time used facial capture with the help of technology. So in Avatar, you don't have animation. You have animation, but it's very less. It's all motion capture. And that the movie was that they used for the first time the facial capture of the expressions also of the actor to replicate in the 3D to be done. So he waited for the right technology to come and give it to the user. So think about that. So there is a discovery phase or empathy phase where you do user research, you talk about business goal, create a value proposition and create a broader context. And now there are different activities you might do in the first step of the UCD to understand the user. This is the official data published by NN Group, interviewing most of the companies across the globe, and they have put the data here. Like most of you said here that companies don't do it. There's a graph on the top, you can see why organizations do not perform discovery or why they don't try to understand the user. If you look at it, the major one was time pressure. Deadlines and time pressure is one of the biggest reasons that people don't perform discoveries. This is what NN Group says. Then the next one, which all of you mentioned, like Mr. Manoj also mentioned here, no management buy-in. Management does not care about it actually, right? That's another big percentage you have, or people don't have knowledge in the organization to run it, right? So these are some top factors where people do not perform discoveries. And what are the common activities you can do in discovery is user interviews. You can interview your users. You can talk to your users to understand their problem statement, what problem they have at hand, and how you can solve them to do the innovation, right? Most of the services are built on that over here. Blinkit is a big example of it, right? A company which was Grofers previously did not work well. They got converted into quick commerce now, right? What it's solving, you can get something in 15 minutes at your doorstep, even earlier than that. So understanding your users and their pain points, understanding the stakeholder interviews, then you have analyzing the analytic. Now the third step which you see there can only be done if you already have a product. So the cycle which I showed you, there was a measure at the end or test at the end. Now that could be your first step if you already have a product with you, right? And instead of showing you this, let me open quick graphic which I have from my library. Generally, I keep this picture with me to show to all of you. This is what we are talking about discovery right now, right? What I will do is I will give you this graphic also. It's one of the best graphics I have, and I keep it. So you can see that in each stage there are different activities mentioned here, which you perform in the UX design or in design thinking or in creating any product you perform. If you look at discovery, there are user interviews, stakeholder interviews, surveys, data analysis, competitor analysis, focus groups, observations, clustering insights, context mapping, customer journey, and you have something in the test here. Like one of you said also to me, A&B testing is very popular, right? Then you have usability testing, shadowing, a lot of things are there. Now generally you see this as a last step, but this could be your first step if the product is already there. For example, you are a UX designer and I'm a business person and I say, please redesign my website. So that might become your one of the first device. So if I need to redesign it, how can I improve it? What changes I can do and what is the current problem users have? So you can get a lot of data which is already there now. If I've been doing Google Analytics and other things in my system, and I can use that product to test with the users, right? So you can also, one of the things you can do in testing is known as guerrilla testing. Have you heard about guerrilla testing or starburst testing?
No. I haven't.
You haven't? Okay. What is starburst testing is, what we say in UX is that you create a prototype in Figma or you already have a website which is there. You take that website to a cafe, you will find some people generally sitting individually, ask them for a favor. Can you test this for us? And you give them a scenario to do, you give them a task to do, and then you will observe him or her where they're getting stuck, what are the problems they are facing. That is one of them as usability testing you can do without much money involved in it. Right? Now the Figma prototypes work on your iPad or your phone, you can take it and you can test it. And you can let the user get feedback. And how many users you need for it? Now you may say, okay, we will test with 1, 2, 3, 500. How many people should I test with?
Depends on the product.
Okay, 30 to 40. Anybody else?
Segments that you're covering.
Okay, probably. Else? 32. Okay. Why at least 32? Can I know that from your end, please? Just me. Why the number came to your mind, probably?
I think लोगों के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू बदलते हैं. हमें एक सिनेरियो लेते हैं कि एटलीस्ट 30 to 40 दिन की जिसमें हमें एक इनसाइट निकाल सकें और अपने डिजाइन में अप्लाई कर सकें.
Okay. So what NN Group says in a research, a proven research by NN Group, you need only 5 people. Only 5 people. Because NN Group says after 5th person, the value it adds is not significant and it will not worth your time and money, basically. So if you can do a usability of with 5 people, just 5 people, right? It will give you a lot of insights, but those 5 people has to be not just have to be chosen basically. Means you first go to a person, say, okay, hey, do you use this kind of app? Are you interested? Then you will give them for testing basically. So if you pick the right 5 people, you get all the major insights which is required to be carried out in a particular product. And you can do the user testing with those. And you can just go to Starbucks. Even Google does this. What Google does when someone is creating a product, Google is a big company, right? So they sit in a cafe. If someone is coming from other department, something from non-technical background, let's say, they tell them to test the product for them. And they do this with 5 people, like this. And they get a lot of insights based on that. So this could be one of the first steps to be done depending on what product you're designing. If I say if I'm going to create a new product which I don't have, so of course you may start from just user interviews and all. If the product does not exist, but generally product exists, maybe a product is there for my competitor. Let's say I want to create something like Flipkart, Amazon. So my competitor is there. So maybe I can test their app, right, with some other users and get a feedback from there and see what are the gaps maybe Amazon, Flipkart has, which I can resolve in my business to be there. That's what Blinkit and other things have done. Amazon will at least take 1 hour, 3, 5 hours, 4 hours, at least 4 hours nowadays. Even if you talk about NCR, they might deliver a day, same day delivery also. But they can't get you within 10 minutes. That's what Blinkit and Zapto has focused on. Okay. So there was a gap, there was a market gap which they've understood and they are filling that gap now. So you will do user interviews. I think user interview all of you understand. Yes.
How much can I trust the user? Because in a lot of situations, it has been shown that users really doesn't know what they like. For example, when the Herman Miller introduced the Iron Chair, the modern office chair, people hated it. They rated it 2 out of 10. But still, the company went along and denied what the user said. So, how much can you trust the user, and where should you deviate from the user?
You should not trust the user. This is also what we say. You should not trust the user. Because I tell you, if I ask in this room everyone what you do from morning to evening, all of you will start making stories here. Then what you actually do, right? If I ask you, how do you spend your day from, let's say, from morning to night till you sleep, all of you will start making story. Maybe intentionally or unintentionally, right? So you should not trust the user. That's what we say. I told you one thing, when you're doing a usability testing, you're observing the user. You're not asking him or her something. You need to observe the user, what steps they are doing, what kind of facial expression they are making, where they are struggling. You need to understand that basically. So only that, you don't have to blindly follow the user, what the user is saying. Right? Let's say user said, sir mentioned driver should not get the option to cancel the cab. We can't just simply implement something based on the user. And sometimes you're right. Steve Jobs used to say this. Steve Jobs has a very common quote. What was that quote is?
Unless you don't show the user what they want, they will not know.
Correct. This is what Steve Jobs used to say it. People don't know what they need until you show them what is needed. Right? So to show them what is needed, like I said, you might never guess. There have been if I ask you on 6, do you need iPhone? How many of you told that you need iPhone? No, probably nobody knew that, right? And it not came from that user told Steve Jobs that build an iPhone, right? Nobody told Steve Jobs to do it. That's what he observed. That's where your intelligence, your intuition goes ahead. There are a lot of businesses in the starting does not work, but they become very successful at a later stage, because some place at the user try to understand that this is possible and we can use it over here, right? I tell you one company example. I used to work with one of the trading companies, and the CEO had one vision. Suddenly we say, no, people have vision generally. Like Steve Jobs had a vision of something. Not everybody has that, and people are unique. So the CEO of the company thought, we will do our automation. Typically what happens right now in a company is, there is a requirement of a training from a client. We have one middleman, which is known as a resource manager, who looks at what trainer has what skill, right, and map to that particular customer and to the management of that calendar of the trainer also. The CEO simply said, I will automate this, right? Requirement will come, the trainer will be automatically assigned with the system itself. Nobody believed him, right? That it cannot become true. Everybody was like mad, this is not possible at all. But he eventually did that, right? Now, of course, the team did not went from 100 to 0, but the same resource team went from, let's say, 30 to only 5 people. Right? So sometimes people don't know that something can be done, and then simply you stick to it. Of course, it took almost 2 to 3 years to do that, basically. It's not a small job, it took time to do it. Nowadays, people say AI cannot replace me. Actually, it can replace you, maybe in the future. Right? And that's a harsh truth we have now. Right? It may replace you. Currently, it looks impossible. But in certain time of period, it can do it. Like for example, a lot of BPO jobs are now going off because of the same thing. Right? Of course, human touch is needed. I will not say it will completely off. It might take from 10 to 2 people. The same thing will happen basically, like it happened in factories when computers came. So the labor might be less, maybe required, but less. Even as a UX designer, I would say, if you look at ChatGPT, if you look at Midjourney, all these things, a lot of things I use on a day-to-day basis, Midjourney, ChatGPT, and other things. I also feel that previously maybe I need 10 UX designers. Now the same job can be done probably by 4 or 5 people only, and that's a reality basically, right?
If you think that if you can afford it, then it can replace you.
Sorry,
If you can afford the AI, then it can replace
I think almost can afford it now. If as an individual I am able to afford it now.
you.
Think.
Then there's a automation testing and there's a manual testing. The automation you have to pay the price, which will reduce from 10 people to 2-member team.
Correct.
Where the manual testing is required, where 10 people are there. If you can afford, the company can afford it, then it can replace you. If it doesn't.
Yeah, so I think automation is also coming in testing a lot now, especially in the AI testing, it's coming a lot, and it can really reduce the number of people. However, it will do over the time because companies are still experimenting with it. Right? Manual testing has to be there, but like you said, from 10 people, it may go from 2 people only. People will still be required, but only the top ones. Right? The mediocre jobs might kind of finish up here. Right? There are a lot of things. For example, I tell you, if I want to create user interview questions now, I can tell ChatGPT that I'm working on this topic. Please create interview questions, open-ended, close-ended. It will do it for me. For which I will take maybe 8 hours, 20 hours previously to build manually. It will do in 5 minutes. And I might apply my intelligence a bit more to reframe them, some of them, and do it. Right, so ChatGPT can do it very easily. Now there are a lot of plugins now. If you know, recently in ChatGPT 4, there's a plugin option now. People are building plugins, customized ChatGPTs out of ChatGPT. Let's say you want to create a persona, you can do that. There's a plugin, you can get a visual persona also with it. We'll not go into it, but in short, you need to do some kind of a research with the user, understand the user, discover them, learn about their competitors, understand what they do, and then you come to define stage. Define stage means understand the major problem user has. Don't, like I said before also, don't go to the user and ask them what problem you have. You just need to understand them, how they use the particular application in their day-to-day life. And then you define the problem statement by creating persona. How many of you know what is persona here? What it is? No. Interview are done in the first stage. But is it really a hypothetical user?
Mostly how you
Yeah.
Model from actual usage or perceived.
So persona in UX simply say it's a fictitious character, like he said. It's a fictitious character. It's not a real existing character, but it has the characteristics of your user interviews. So you will get, let's say you interview 20 people, you have a lot of data now to look at. So you summarize that data into persona. You get a persona, a fictitious character that this is my ideal customer this is his pain points, gains and everything, and you put in the persona here. Whereas empathy map is based on a real user, generally we say, which talks about what the user thinks, does, says and feels about something. That is known as persona, right? For example, if you want to create an empathy map, right, of buying a car, right? If you want to understand the user as an empathy, buying a car, So if I ask all of you, what will you do, or what you do to buy a car? Before you buy a car, when you're in the process of buying a car. So what do you do? Budget. So yeah, so let's say you will search about the car types. You will go to some showrooms, right? You will go to some watch online videos, etc. Right? You will do all those activities. So these are the things you are doing. What are the things you say? Now you might be confused. What is the difference between do and say? Correct? So what is the difference between it? So basically, see, when you get an empathy map, let me show you one quick thing. I have it. Okay, I'm not having this images. Anyways, so in empathy map, what happens is you have do, like which you actually do. There are a few things you might say to yourself or have a say. For example, I need a good mileage car is your say. I need a car within this budget is your say, basically, right? I need, let's say, 7-seater car. This is your say. That's a difference between do and say. And what could be the think, which you're thinking in your background of your mind? Should I buy this or not? Right? That is your thinking going in the background of your mind. There could be a lot of things. Maybe, can I trust this brand? That is might be going in your background of your mind. And what is the feel? Feel is maybe you are excited to buy a new car. You are anxious about buying it. All these things are known as feelings. Now, when you understand the does, says, things and feels that I told you right now, how is it helpful for you as a UX designer? How does it help you? Or what is the significance of creating it? Think. Now let's say you're creating a app which can let people buy the car easily. Right? Means as you're creating like a car dekho, I think all of you know car dekho, car wala and all this. They're kind of apps only. Will let people, select a car and compare cars, etc. So let's say you're creating a product like this. So empathy map will help you in what things? You know that what user does. User compare cars. User go to a showroom. So maybe we can have a feature in my application which can show the nearest showroom to the user. Based on what is there in the empathy. What users say. Right? So we can maybe get a filter of what the best mileage cars are. But this is what user is saying. User says that I need to buy an EMI. Let's add an insurance option into it. User thinks that this is the right time or not. Let's get a price prediction chart in the app. Right? If user is excited, so how can we add to his or her excitement basically? Maybe you can add a feature in the app for the same. For example, maybe offering a discount, or maybe nowadays there's a good thing going is that you can maybe hire a photographer at a delivery of your time of your car through the app. Right? So adding to the excitement of the user by adding those features in your application. So you're not asking user what you need. You're just trying to understand what user is saying, doing, what is feeling and thinking, and based on that you're adding those features in your application to improve his or her experience. And that's why you create this empathy map or persona, whatever you create in UX. If you just want to keep them aside, they're not going to be useful. So you get features from there. By talking to the user, you understand, okay, this feature can be added to it. Right? Maybe we can have this feature also. Like one of that, maybe I can just get an option for electrical vehicle in Uber. Right? So let's say user wants to go that side. So we can have a feature around that or to build something around that. So that's what you need to think about. So user might not tell you exactly what is needed, but they might tell you indirectly what has to be there. One more important thing in UX is for all of you, multiple roles are involved in it. It is not a one-man job. The book I told you, read Sprint. It talks about very clearly that even have a CEO in the room of the company to do the UX design thinking basically. So there are multiple roles who might be responsible to collaboratively work to create a product is important. Maybe involve in let's say when you're doing a particular product development, involve your developers also. Maybe involve the salesperson who basically faces the customer on a day basis in the front end. Maybe you have never spoken to him. There are a lot of feedback which comes, you give it to a salesman, right? You go buy a car, let's say, or a scooter or anything. You tell a lot of feedback to the salesperson, which never goes to the company actually. Right? So involve everyone. And this is what says, typically in the group found out that majorly this job is done by designer. Then the next was researcher and the product managers. And it got slowly less and less as it moves on ahead. But most of the companies involve some people in it. If you look at the other activities performed, surveys is one of the biggest things you have. Stakeholder workshop. What is stakeholder workshop?
Representatives of all the
So called in MNC you have on-site projects. You go to the project side and you develop a product basically. Field studies. Card sorting is an activity of information architecture. Very, very popular activity in information architecture. How to organize your information in the website. Then is architect card sorting. If you have played a game with your child, right? If you have children at your home probably, or maybe yourself also. If I give you vegetables and fruits, what you tell your child is to separate them. Keep fruits in one place and keep vegetables in one place. And you get categories. So what categories you will have in your website is identified using card sorting activity. In what group should I organize what product is important with card sorting. So there are a lot of studies and different things you do in the usability research. And there are two types of, I think this all of you must be aware of, quantitative and qualitative research. Please go ahead. Yes. Sure.
Two questions. One is, empathy map. Actually, the slide before.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Empathy map comes before user journey. You have shown a slide.
This one.
Second column.
Yeah.
There's personas, there's empathy maps, and user journeys, right? So is this in?
No, this is not in order.
Chronological sequence?
No.
It's not.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So my first question is, what is the difference or overlap between empathy maps and user journeys?
Okay. So user journey is completely different from empathy map, right? If you look at it, user journey is a particular journey of a user from start to end. You think about, right? So let's say the user goes to a showroom, right? He meets a receptionist first, then he reads a sales advisor, and then he takes a car demo. So what happened in that journey to the user? That is known as user journey. In empathy map, you're just trying to see what the user do, what the user say, feel and think. User journey is created when it is important to look at the complete journey of the user with a particular product, right? Or you talk about customer journey map also. It's a little bit bigger. They are both are similar actually. User journey maps and customer journey map are a little bit similar, but customer talks about a bigger segment. For example, after buying the product, after sales services and etc. That will come in customer journey map. User journey map could be for a small thing. Let's say you open a Zomato app, you see something, you click on it. Then what is the next step you do? You talk about all those steps the user is taking and what opportunities you have in that particular steps to do. That you will try to identify in the user journey, right? So it's a different map altogether to look at it. I will show you this. I have one case study which I will show you the user journey, empathy map personas. Storyboard is for within the company, for you to understand how our product helps the user. Within the design team, everybody understand what the product does. For that, you do storyboards basically, and not a very compulsory activity to be done. It depends on all these things which you see here. That doesn't mean that you do all of this. There are some common activities you can perform, right? But that doesn't mean that you do all of them. It's not practical to do all of them. You don't have that much time to do it. Please go ahead.
Before actually embarking on this journey of discovery and the user research, as we're following the utility path, how does a business or maybe a UX strategist know who to target with your path? Or are they actually targeting the right users? How do we feel on the right
Okay.
target?
Yes, so that's a good question. So that's what you're trying to do in the discovery itself, right? So that will come from your stakeholder first of all. Generally, that's why you have stakeholder interviews also here. So if you're not very clear about who's your target audience is, your stakeholder will generally understand who's your target audience is. If they are also not very clear, then you will try to find out the market fit or the target user by looking at and interviewing the users, different kind of users. And then you will identify your market. Okay, this is what I need. That's a typical any business does if they're trying to find who will be our users would be. And it is not even a UX thing. It is more of a business thing basically to look at it. Right? But here what we're talking about is even if you know who your users are, you should go and talk to them. What is required? Like interview them, understand them. Because generally what we say, our customer is from the age of 18 to 30. We know that. But we never go and talk to them actually. So UX is saying that you should go and understand them. Just not have a feeling that you know your users. You're just working on assumptions. You should go and talk to them. This is what the UX is saying. The traditional part of the business will still remain there.
Under ideate, there's a heading crazy apes. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so that's a good activity also basically. Crazy 8 is there. It's for ideation technique, right? See how much time we have. Okay. Thank you for bringing me to that. I think we can do an activity on it, and we still have time, right? So let's do one small activity. I think all of you have pen and paper with you, right? If you don't have it, I think there's some papers here also. You can take it. Because she has come to this crazy 8, so I'll tell you about ideation, one of the ways of ideation. You do a very simple job, and we're not going to look at your drawing. You don't have to draw something, right? You don't have to be perfect. Even if you make a circle as elliptical, that's okay, right? But what we do in crazy 8 is an activity to identify how you can have design ideas. So what you do is you take this paper and fold into 8 halves. You fold this paper into 8 halves like this. If you want, you can also draw a line and divide into 8 boxes, but what you typically do is, let's say if you don't have a scale, so you basically fold it like this, right? Half fold, then you do again a half fold, right? And again do a half fold here. And if you now open it up, how many sections you have? 8 sections, right? You have 8 boxes here now. You can also draw with the pen if you want, but this is like easy to do without scale. What we say in crazy 8, you divide this into 8 sections like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 sections you have, right? Okay. Now in this 8 sections, generally it typically says that you have 8 minutes. Now you have 8 minutes to draw 8 designs or to think about innovation. Let's say I'm giving you a challenge here, right? Not a small challenge. Think about how you can design a login screen in 8 different ways. Simple thing. Login screen. How a login screen can have 8 different designs to it. And ideally the principle says you have 1 minute for one design. So you don't have to think too much, remember. But just whatever comes to your mind, think how you can design that login screen in 8 designs, different 8 designs basically. I give you exactly 8 minutes based from here. but I'm not limiting to 1 minute, so you can keep designing. And you don't have to like make it perfect, remember. It's okay to draw boxes, lines, etc. Right? You don't have to like write the proper text, you write login, you know. For text, you can simply get 2 lines, right? And you can showcase that. And it's okay, you don't have to be perfect, like I said. Whatever comes to your mind, do it. Think about different login screens you must have seen probably. Or whatever comes to your mind, you can draw it. Different designs, different things you may do. If you look at in this 8 minutes, you had 8 different designs to look at. So what you are doing is ideation. Now generally what you will do is you go to Figma, you start designing. You go to any software, start designing a login screen, typically how it is done. You have never thought about out of the box how it can be done in different ways. This is what Crazy 8 tells you basically. That within a small span of a time, how you can think about different designs or different solutions. Sometimes we do this for solution also. Let's say if I ask that I want to reduce the cancellation of Uber apps by drivers. So can you think about 8 quick ideas how we can reduce it, and maybe just write one point on each box there. And if you do this activity in a small team, let's say of designers, 5 6 designers, you are in a company, in a team. So how many ideas you have? Multiply that by 8 into 5, right? So we'll have that many ideas. Now currently for login screen, we have so many ideas in this room, right? So that is known as Crazy 8. That's known as ideation technique in design thinking. Ideation thing. Of course, you can't build all the ideas. So what you will do is you will filter out those ideas now, which you have created. And that is also a right way of doing a brainstorming. So all of you understand what is brainstorming is. What you typically do in brainstorming. You get into a room, start discussing. If I start discussing, hey, how can we reduce the Uber cancellation by the drivers? What will happen? One of you will speak, one of you will speak, one of you will speak. Most of them will remain silent. We only get 5 or 6 ideas. Actually, what will happen is even other people will start thinking the same direction, what you just told. And if I will tell something, people will think he is saying right. Why? Because of authority right now. So if you have a company, in a company you have a CEO, if you have a manager, he ठीक ही बोल रहा होगा. And your mind will stop thinking there. So in design thinking also we say that you should start with this exercise. Let people write down their ideas individually on paper and then present those ideas. Right? So everybody get a chance to speak and then do a brainstorming, means do a critique on it. Let's say someone says, okay, we will do this. Then maybe what could be the apprehensions for not having that probably. So then discuss it. But in this point of time, you can be crazy. Think about any idea. Don't think about technology. Do not think about money, time, anything. Just crazily think of an idea which can solve them. Right? And then you will discuss on it, please.
Why are there two user journey maps in both design ideas?
Okay, not only two username maps, you will find a lot of activity repeated. For example, if you look at analytics here, there's a data analytics there, lot of things, right? Like I said, it's an iterative process. There is no particular stage to do one particular activity here. So a lot of activities kind of overlaps, right? For example, sometimes you might do a user journey here, sometimes you might do a user journey here at this point of time. Now you did user journey over here to understand the current journey of the user. So let's say when Blinkit did not came, so what was the journey of the user to buy a product which he or she immediately needs, right? Then how that journey has changed after my product or the idea I have. So again, you might repeat that user journey to see that whether it fits to the user or not, right? So that's why you will do the again user journey over here. So this is how it looks. I opened an example also which I have. This is a customer journey example which is given by NN Group. It talks about a scenario. He said that the person wants to switch a SIM carrier. Let's say you want to go from Vodafone to Airtel to Jio. So what is the typical journey of the user is, right? When he or she does that, and during that, what the user is feeling, what the user is doing basically, what stages the user is going, and what opportunities we have in those stages, and who might be responsible for what. Let's say marketing is responsible for showing better plans. So who will be responsible for what? You create a customer journey map. This is a customer journey map. In a user journey map, you will not define the internal ownerships and all, but you will try to find out some common problems and opportunities users have in that particular journey in there. That is known as customer journey map here. And this is how let me show you one more thing. Now you have so many ideas. Sometimes you might have a lot of ideas to implement, or you might have a lot of features to implement. You can't do that in one go. Like Zomato, if you look at Zomato today, if you look at WhatsApp, did not have so many features what you have today. So at one point of time, you can only work on certain things. So NN Group says that you can play a game known as NUF, which basically where you can kind of rate your products or your feature. Let's say you have, let's say, feature of OTP, for example. Is it desirable by the user? Is it feasible by the user? It is viable or not? And you get a score at the end. So you can basically rank your features, and then you can say, okay, in this iteration we will do this, and maybe we will implement the other features in the other iterations here, or in the upcoming versions of the app. So you might do feasibility, desirability, and viability scorecard there. NN Group also suggests that you can do a dollar game. Dollar game is maybe you get in a room and you say, okay, we have these features to build, and I give you $100. So on which feature you like to spend $100 as an individual? So you can do a kind of a dot voting basically to finalize a particular feature you want to build in this particular iteration of it. Okay, so qualitative and quantitative. You have qualitative, I think all of you know, it's more subjective. You can't measure them. Qualitative is something you can measure. For example, user interviews are very qualitative. They don't give you exact number, how many people are happy and unhappy. But a survey is more kind of a quantitative, which give you a certain number. What is the age group, anything, right? So survey is a quantitative study and there's a qualitative studies. I think all of you know about it. But let's talk about the common activities you do in UX landscape. Now all the activities you have, depending on what you can do. Like I said, user interviews are very common, right? You may also do focus groups. Focus group is that you take some targeted user in a group and do a discussion with them, because maybe you don't have time to do one-on-one interviews with them, right? Then you have diary and camera study. This is generally done for people, like I give an example of Apple Watch, right? So what Apple does it, they gave their product to the people and say whatever observation you have in a day, write down or record it and share with us. Another diary study. Message board pinning. You look at, these are both same basically. What messages are you getting from the users? You look at the data which you already have if the product already exists. Online service, I think you know, card sorting I told you. A&B testing, those who don't know, A&B testing is comparing the versions of two things which you can't decide on, right? So let's say you create design A, you create design B. Now you don't know which will work, so you put both of them to testing. So typically what happens in a website is you have two versions of the home page. Let's say 100 users are coming, so out of 100, 50 users will see design A and 50 users will see design B, and you see which is giving you the best conversion, right? Actually all of you use Google. Google has done this A and B testing just to select the color which you see there. The color you see, the link color, blue color, it's not a normal blue color. They have tested multiple shades of blue with A and B testing, or you can call it as multi-iterative testing with the users, and then they selected a particular color for it, for their advertisements, right? So even on small piece of thing, the testing is done, and you may not be knowing also that you are doing a A&B testing as a user. But of course, as a company, we are aware that we are doing A&B testing. Analytics, almost every company has Google Analytics and even advanced analytics applied to them to look at how users perform. You may do field studies, I told you. Contextual inquiries is what? You look at the user in their context of use, right? In the context of use. For example, recently the Uber head became a driver for one day. Another kind of contextual inquiry. He talked to the customers also and became a driver himself. Usability testing, you tested. Eye tracking, getting very popular but expensive. Not everybody can afford it. With eye tracking, you come to know where the user is actually looking. Nowadays, you must have heard about heat maps. Like Hotjar is there, heat maps are there. They are not 100% true. They are there, but they work on the basis of mouse, where your mouse is going. But eye tracking is a true heat map, which can coordinate your mouse movement and where your eyes are looking at. And there's eye tracking to understand where the user is first looking at, what is getting their attention, etc. That is known as eye tracking technology. With the help of eye tracking technology, N group says there are two patterns people read. One is the F pattern and one is the Z pattern. So what you do is, when you open a web page, you read from this side to this side. Then you again read from this to this side, then you will scroll down. So it becomes a F pattern. Or if you have a big banner in the image, then you will get a Z like this. So people don't read, people scan in F or Z pattern. And how can you break that pattern to make people read? And one group says you can get a layer cake pattern for it. Means break the information in such a way that people read it. For example, create more headings, smaller text in between. If you look at most of the blogs nowadays, if you look at news also, they will have a big paragraph and somewhere they will have a highlight in the between. And then again they will have a paragraph around it. So that it makes the people read something which you want them to look at for sure. So you can get a layer cake pattern. This is coming from eye tracking basically. So a lot of companies do eye tracking here to be built. But if you ask me, even if you want to filter out from here, this is something you can do, right? Some common activities which people do in UX, interviews is for sure. Then you have card sorting, online service is very common. Usability testing, you can't replace usability testing. Every company does it. Every big company does it, right? They do alpha, beta testing also. But that is after the software is created. We are talking about testing here before the software is even created, right? In the prototype to be done. So those are some common activities you have for it. And I have a quote here basically which says, this is what I was talking about. What people say and what people do and what they say and they do are entirely different things, remember. When you're doing the studies, when you're doing even user interview, person might make a story for you to tell, right? So remember, that's why when you talk about usability study, or even when you talk about doing user interviews, we generally say if you can record the user, it will be better. So later you can observe his facial or her facial expressions, see what user was doing. An actual usability lab generally has this. If you go to bigger companies, they have a lab around it, which looks something like this. Let me show you quickly here from my other part. It's an upcoming part also in this thing I have. I want to just quickly show you the usability part here. See, this is how it looks like. So if you can do this way, that will be great. So you have a participant, you are recording his screen also here, what he is doing. You are recording his facial expression with the webcam there when the user is performing that particular task. Most of the big companies have this kind of a lab there, small lab basically, to do the usability testing for the users. So later on, you can watch it and see what users did mistake. That's why, like you said, no, don't trust the users. You can't blindly trust the users, remember, because what they say and what they do or what we do eventually is totally different things altogether. So you can't blindly trust them. You have to really make it out what is making them struggle. And sometimes the user does not know himself, right? And if you want to experience this, whenever you go from now here, if you struggle with any app, you simply ignore it. But think, why did you struggle? Give it a second thought. Then it will tell you that what was the problem in the application or why it was not working that way. We just don't give a thing. We don't care about it. We simply just, because we just want to move forward with this. So think about it. Because sometimes the user itself does not know. And once you do all this study, like especially if you do user interviews, then you create personas, which looks something like this. So persona is a fictitious character, but based on actual user studies. You're trying to summarize the content into a small report, you can say. Right? If you've done any kind of a research report previously, or if you do anything, generally what you do, you create a dashboard to nicely represent the data. In the core, in the background, you might have a lot of data, but you kind of summarize the data. Same way you try to summarize the data with the help of persona. So when I'm designing the app or doing anything, I can just look at this. I don't have to look at the raw data which is there at the back. And that's the reason you create persona on this fictitious character, imagining your ideal customer is. And you may create multiple personas, rather than you create one. It depends on how vast your audience is. So you may create 2, 3 or 4 personas. And then group generally say 4 personas are sufficient in UX to do any product. So you will create a persona like this, which looks something like this basically, you can see. Or it can look different, like templates could be different, information could be different. But the main thing you have in persona is frustrations, goal, pain points of the user to look at it. So once you understand those pain points, you can build a solution for it over here, right? And sometimes you may get user stories also. What is user story is? User story is this. Has a persona. Now after the persona is created, you create a user story out of it. Has a persona, I want to able to do this functionality too, so that my need or motivation is fulfilled. This will allow you to create scenarios basically. So for example, the fulfillment is, as a user, I want to able to search for destination so that I can book accommodation in a foreign city. So it's giving you one platform to think about to complete this journey of the user. What do I need in my app? What are different screens I need in my app? This will help you identify that over here. And this. And you can create something like this also, see. So if you see on the top, it says, as a donor, I want to donate a meal so that I can help people in need. As a restaurant, I want to attract more customers so that I can ensure my workflow is simple. So there are different user stories are created. Based on that, you may do ideation and see what stages you require. You might do your information architecture also. Okay? And I show you the complete one here as a case study in Figma. I'm going to just open my Figma here. This is what we ask users to create actually, right? Or in a typical company also, you should create something like this. So what we have is, this is basically a case study on food donation app. The concept, if I tell you in short, is you have a lot of leftover food by restaurants by the end of the day, right? So if we can basically donate that, right, to the needy people. Maybe let's say restaurant himself or wants to, he can do that. That's the problem statement we have here, right? And the solution has been created for it. So what you typically do is, you will first of all have a problem statement, right? Then you might present what kind of a design framework you have followed. Then you talk about quantitative research basically. So you will create some questions for the user interviews. And you might do a quantitative research also, which you can do with Google. This is done by Google Forms only. The presentation has been created nicely over here to represent, right? And you can see some numbers have been presented over here. Then based on that, there's also an NGO number we have. Then brainstorming, competitor analysis. Then you have the define phase. We have created personas here. You can see our persona has been created here. Then you can user stories, build empathy maps, storyboard. It's basically just storyboard is just showing that how using our application, user will achieve something. This is what is showing in a visual form. That's the only purpose of it. Then we create the ideate. We talk about task flow in the UX. Task flow is thinking about how user will move from one end to another end in our application. What screens we will have, major screens we will have. Then we may create this is card sorting basically to put the features in particular card. Then we create an information architecture. Now I will show you one more information architecture we have, which has much more information than this. This is just talking about kind of a sitemap. This will look like a more kind of a sitemap to you. What information will go under what page, how it will be organized. So till here, we are not talking about design here, and this might take up to, let's say, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then you will move on to the designing. That's where you create wireframes, and you may create a high fidelity screens here. Into it.
Discovery phase, what about the secondary research?
Secondary research means? I didn't get you.
Internet.
Okay, research paper, internet studies. Okay, got it. So you can do that also. In this one, in this case study, it's been not been done, right? Or not been shown, but yes, you can include them if you want to, right? Whatever studies you have done externally, let's say you might have some numbers, right? Let's say how many people go hungry, right? What is the donation rate in India right now? You can have that basically. You can showcase that. That will make your portfolio more stronger only, right? You can always have that and you can include that, but include only the main things, the bigger numbers basically. If you're creating kind of case study, in the background you might have a lot of information to look at. That's a different thing, but you might look at it. Yes.
So it's like when you were explaining empathy maps earlier, so you said that after writing all the code things what they say to you come to conclusion that these are the new features that I will add, or this is how I structure my application. So in the case study, should we write that also because it's missing?
Yes, actually it's there in the background. If I show you the core of it, but so basically when you look at this case study, we basically say that this information is coming because of that. That's why we said empathy map before, the other thing is coming here at the bottom, the task flow. So we are assuming that it's already based on that.
So all the conclusion and the ideate phase
from there basically. So everything is coming from the above step basically. So over here also when we're doing UI screen, so why this screen has been designed in a particular way, that means it's coming from the above information, which is there in the case study. And then you create a prototype also. Show the prototype here of this application quickly. Now, those who are new to the UX, I want to clarify one thing. This is a prototype. A lot of people have a confusion that we create a prototype, it's going to convert into an app. No, right? It is a prototype. This is not your actual app. This is a prototype to test with the users. So earlier, those who have been a graphic designer here, visual designers previously, if you come from like background of 15 years, 10 years back, I used to do designing in Photoshop. So in Photoshop, what we used to do, we create one screen as a flat design and give it to the stakeholder, get approval and start developing it. Now what we are doing here different is, we are only creating a static screen, multiple screens, plus also creating a flow between them. Interactive. So the user can test it out, plus developer will also better understand what needs to be done exactly. Right? So for example, let's say I join as a donor. I can click on something, say join. I can click. I can say let's select something, right? So I'll pick up, continue. So for a prototype, only few things will work basically here, not everything. I can click on donate now, assign. There's some animations here, and it's been assigned now, right? I can go to my profile, I can go to alarm, donate, home page, back. Done. Right, so I can say okay, how much food is available. Say click here, save. Done. So you get a prototype. So now when someone looks at it, when your stakeholder will have a better understanding. Okay, this is how my app is going to look like. This is what it will finally be. Right, so he or she wants some change, they can suggest you. Plus you can test this with the user. So what I will typically do is, I will give this to user and say, place an order from this app, or do this activity in this app, and they do that. And this is not coded, remember. Right? If I find any significant thing which needs to be changed, then I will implement again and again test with the user. So I don't have to wait for the app to develop and then test, because till that time it will be too late and a lot of money and time is already invested in that. So it's a prototype, remember. The expectation is that not everything will work here dynamically, and it is not that though there are plugins in Figma to convert this into a code, but they are not so good, or not even good means they did not create a very good code in terms of very clean code, which is very optimized. So still you need a developer for it to do it, right? And Figma helps you with dev mode and all in this. So this is what you typically do. I'll show you one more here. Like
whole thing called prototype, right? The whole slide.
No, this one. This is a mockups. These are all mockups basically, and then we can make a connection between them. If I show you this, see, this is how they are connected to each other. Right? Yeah. So mockups been connected to each other to create an interactive prototype over here, as you can see. But if I go here, for example, now if you look at information architecture in this one, this is much more detailed. This is a proper information architecture of this application. So here we talk about in each page what details goes, right? It talks about what information goes in particular page and how it will work and how it is interconnected to each other. So this is proper information architecture we have created to show the interconnection. So that was kind of a sitemap. If you have time and efforts to put, you might create something like this. This is another case study I'm showing you, which is based on building a community app for people. Sports community app basically. Okay, so we'll go for a break, but before we go for a break, after the break, I will talk about the most important part, which is known as heuristic analysis, right? So heuristic analysis is a 10 principles which are laid down by Jacob Lanson, which tells you that how you can self-test your app and can help you solve 249 common problems in UI if you just follow it. Then we will talk about visual design principles a bit about visual design, and then I will talk about the Figma. After that, a bit about Figma, and I will also show you though how you can get Figma for free, right? If you're enrolled in any university or if you have a children at your home who go to school, you can get Figma for free for the pro licensing of it. I will also talk about that, how you can apply for it and how can you get a free license of Figma for the pro version, which I also use as an educator. I do not have to pay $12 to Figma every month. Plus, after the break, whatever material I have been using in the form of PPTs, right? I will share all that with you after the break with the QR code to download, so you can get access to that. Please go ahead. To get your files, whatever I've been using in the presentation, remember when you will go through them, you might find more slides than what I showed you here because of the time. They will go a little bit more detail in it anyways. So you'll get that. Right. And everyone.
Can we turn the slide off?
Yeah, can you please off one light here? You वाले भी पीछे. Thank you. Yeah, it should be more clear now. With me, let me just share this. So connect with me. That's my number, that's my website, and that's my LinkedIn. You can go there. Yeah, sure. The URL one? QR code. This one? You can scan this. Come. In case if you wish to connect with me on LinkedIn or contact me in future, you can also go to vishwagwal.com or you have my number and WhatsApp me or LinkedIn, basically. Pretty simple. Okay, so I hope all of you noted down. Now let's go to Figma. First of all, you have to log in into Figma. So I'm going to the figma.com here and opening Figma as a software. Of course, I can't teach you complete Figma in 1 hour, right? But I can give you a little bit understanding, especially for people who are coming from Photoshop, other certain other graphic designs. You can understand why it works in a different way, why people use it, right? And probably I'll tell you one running resource also for it. If you want to learn Figma in depth easily, I will give you some resources that talk about that basically and what makes this software different. So currently you can see all my draft files here. I have multiple draft files into it. Once you log in, this is the dashboard you want to see. And Figma has 2 softwares in it. One is the Figma itself, other one is the FigJam. FigJam is for whiteboarding activities. So let's say if you belong to a MNC, you might be using Miro, Mural, freehand kind of a softwares. So FigJam is an alternative to that basically. Just an alternative to that. So you can do whiteboarding activities, you can do collaboration activities on Figma Jam, and then Figma you can create your design files in it to be there, right? To be used. So that's what you can do here, and yeah, no problems. So once you come here, you come to draft, and if you scroll down on the left hand side of yours, you will see that there's a teams given there. You can create teams basically here, right? If you go into Figma left hand side, you will see teams as an option, And when you go to the teams as an option here, if you're using a free account, you can only create 3 teams with 1 file. Remember, but in your draft, you can have as many as files you need. There is no limited number of files you have in it. Right? There's no limit of number of files you can have. In a team, you can have only basically 3 teams and one file in each of them to be there. So you can create teams for managing your teams basically here. For managing your teams over here. So that's what team does. So basically what team concept in Figma is, let's say you are a product manager, you might have multiple teams and working on multiple products. So you can create a team for each of them and you can easily manage them basically in an organization. That's what the team concept means. Draft means that file only belongs to you, not to a team. So anything you have in a draft, that means it belongs to you here in this. The other thing which Figma gives you is at the bottom in the left hand side, you will see there is an option of explore community. So this is the largest community of UI designers you have. You can find a lot of free resources, plugins in Figma to use actually from here. If you go to this particular tab known as explore community here, if you click on the explore community, you will get all these options basically here. And you can look for templates, files, UI kits, a lot of things you can get from here by default. Want to look at them, right? That's known as Figma community here. If you want to go back, you need to go to the Figma option back here and you can select my account back. I will be back in my account here. Creating a file is pretty simple here. You go to the recents or you go to your draft. Basically, you can click on new design file here. Right? I can click on new design file on the top right corner. And if I click on it, I can create a new design file. It will create a blank file for me. And it might look something like this. The background of this might be white for some of you, right? So when you create it, if you just click in the center, you will find a page option where you can change the color. I want to change the color a bit so you can see it easily. The difference in the UI, right? I think I need to change my complete Figma theme also. Wait a minute. I can change the theme of it from these settings to a lighter theme because I think it will be easy for all of you to see when I'm training. Right. Now you should be able to easily see it. So this is how it will open up. Now your interface will look black by default, but you can change the theme if you want to in Figma. Right. So now over here, you have simple workflow here. You simply say you design it. You first design it and then you prototype it here. Simple as that. You design and prototype it here. Over here you have a layers panel which shows all the layers you will have. You will have the assets panel which will show all the assets you have created. I will show you in a minute. And then you will have a page option here. In the page option, if you drop down, then it will open and you can create multiple pages here in the Figma. Get multiple pages. But one thing you need to remember, those who are new to Figma, the pages does not mean web pages or app pages. It is not for that purpose. So you say, okay, about us, home page and all, it is not for that purpose. It is just in one file you can have multiple pieces of working here. But you should not divide your web page or app into multiple pages. They should be on the same page because in Figma, pages cannot be interlinked in prototyping. Means you can't link page A to page B in short. For that, you need to have all the pages in the design center over here. So how do we design? For example, if you come from any design software, you must be knowing about artboard probably. Here it is known as frame in Figma. This is the second icon you will see on the top tool. You will see there is an option of frame. You can also use a shortcut known as F to access the frame. And that's the first thing you need to create to start your design. Right? So if you click on the frame icon, you will see all the presets of frame listed over here from top to bottom. They are all of them listed over here in this. And you will see that iPhone 14, etc. is given basically over here in this. Right? So over here you can choose the size you want to design for. Let's say you want to get a mobile app for iPhone or something, you can choose that. But that doesn't mean that if you're getting for iOS or iPhone, that doesn't mean that it will not go to Android. You can use it on Android also. Only the screen size is different a bit. And we try to also get a responsive design which is known as auto layout in Figma. I will not be able to cover up today, means I'll not talk about it, but that you can do. You can get some kind of a responsive layout in Figma to fit into various places. So let's say I take iPhone 14 and 15 Pro. If I click on it, you will see automatically a frame will come. So which basically defines your design boundaries. It's you need to design within this basically. You want that screen to be visible, right? We'll design in this only. So I have one frame coming up over here. As soon as I click on the frame will be coming up over here. As a standard frame I have. Now anybody who uses Figma already here? What do you do next?
I don't use it, but my team uses it. And
Okay.
these things which I don't understand, which
Okay. So those who use themselves with Danny, what is the next step you usually do? Let me know like what you usually do. Sorry? Name the frame. Okay, what else? Start designing. Wireframing, yeah, which we say designing only. They're doing wireframe designing. Who said this? Good. So ideally you should create layout grids over here. Right? You should define layout grids before you go to the next step. As a guideline, because it will help you design better. Also, you can follow the grids, which can also help your developer at a later stage for constant spacing. So what Figma gives you as an option over here is, you can see it gives you option of layout grids. And they are little bit different from grid, just the grid. It's known as layout grid, I would say. If you click on the plus sign here, it will add a normal grid. You can see normal square boxes have been added here. But if I go to the grid here, and if I click on it, and I go to the grid drop down, you can see I can change to column grids. Column. Now how many columns you will take today depends, I would say. Right? You can take 4, 5, 6, 8 also, depending on the layout you want to design, I would say. But as a rule of thumb, when you talk about mobile, we generally take 4 columns. In a tablet, you might take 8 columns. In a website, you might take 12 columns here. But it's not a thumb of rule, because let's say if I want to design something different here, I might take more layout columns if I need to, as per my requirement. However, there is, let's say if I go here, let me just take 6 here for a minute, because I'm going to do design as per that, 6. Then I have the option of stretch, which is okay. Now we're going to give a margin. Margin is basically the margin from the sides here. This and this. What is the minimum recommended margin from Android and iOS? You said something. 16? 16? Okay, anybody else? 16, yes. So 16 is the recommended. You can have more than that if you want to have it, but it's a recommended one. You can even have less than that. Nobody is stopping you from that. But it's a recommended one. You can take 16 margin here from sides. Right? From both the sides, you can see there's a now gap coming there. The margin is not coming here, there's a gap there coming there. Then you have the column spacing. Now totally depends the gutter space. We call it gutter space. Gutter space also means that you should have nothing ending or starting at the gutter space. Gutter space is this gaps between the columns you see. This gaps which you see is known as the gutter spacing in the layout grid. And you can define the number of the gutter space. I think I'm okay with 20 right now. Maybe generally I keep it in multiples of 8 or at least even number. Maybe I can give it to 18 if I need to. I give it 16 also, multiples of 8 if you're designing with multiples of 8. You have 16 or 24, or then you can take another 32 basically, if you depending on what you're doing. Right, so I can take the gutter space. Let me just do, let's say, a multiple of 16 only. Let's say 16. So my layout grid is now ready for designing further. This one is the base. Ideally, you should take before you start getting design. Sometimes when I'm designing, I might take also rows, right, for better alignment and all. But I'm not focusing on that. I just create a column here. Now see, Figma has a concept here. Once you have defined these columns here or design anything, you can convert them into a style. What it means, you can reuse them again and again. Not only in this file, you can also use them in other files if required. So for that, you can go to this 4 dots in Figma, and if you click on it, you can create a new grid style. So I can say basically 6 COL. I can just name it anything I want to. I can give us some description if I need to here, right? If required, I can simply say create, and it is now created. So kind of saved. So if I create a new frame, or if I go to another file, I'm going to establish the same thing, I don't have to do the same step again. So create a style over here, right? Style. Okay. I'm going to just design one or two login screens here just to show you. Now let's say I need an image. Generally, I don't recommend having an image in the background, but this is just to teach you basically some functionalities. That's the reason I'm going to add an image here, right? And also show you how you can get a quickly an image here and how can you work with it. Okay. So I selected a frame here. Now I need an image. I don't have any image with me right now. So what I will do is I will go for a plugin now in Figma, which can give me royalty-free images. So what I will do is I will go to this icon over here now. Remember my frame is selected here. I go to this icon which you see here, resources. If you click on it, you will find an option of plugins here. You'll find an option of plugins. Find an option of plugins here in this. And in the plugin, I will search for pixels. So Pexel is a very big library of stock royalty-free images you can get. Right? You have Unsplash also. There are lot many other I would say. One of my favorite is Pexels because it has a very straightforward terms and conditions if I compare with any other. You can also use Unsplash. There's a plugin for Unsplash also here, but Pexels is one of them. You can search here, Pexels, P-E-X-E-L-S, and if I just click on it, you will see that plugin will basically open here. So Figma works with a lot of plugins. That's another beauty of Figma, that it has a lot of plugins already built and can get your work done easily over here. Now you have a lot of AI plugins also, by the way. For example, you want to get a wireframe, you can just write a command and it can get a wireframe for you. It can also create a design for you if you want to, right, to a certain extent. So I go here, I go to the search part here and I can search for an image. Let's say I'm looking for something for anniversary. I know the keyword, so I'm just searching for that particular keyword because I want to have a particular picture here coming in. As I search, you can search for any image you want, and I was looking for this glass image basically. Right, so I will take the glass image. Remember, my frame is selected. You can select the frame, and if you click on this image, the image will automatically be added to that particular frame here. Right, over here to edit. Those who are new, if you're coming from graphic design background and all, one thing you remember, when you take images here, it should be 3x of what you're designing, right? So what I mean is, let's say this this width is 390. This width is 390. So you should not take a resolution of 390 only. You should multiply by 3. Why should you multiply by 3? Because remember, you have iPhone Max also. So when the image has to go there, it has to be a higher resolution. So take a higher resolution picture here compared to what you're designing at. We generally design at 1x and we can export in 2x and 3x also. Right? So this image is already big, so I don't have to worry about it. I have the image edit here. I can close this now. If you want to adjust this image, I can go to the fill area and I have the image here. I have the image here. I can go to the drop down and change it to crop. So I can adjust the image placement if I need to have it. I'll do something like this, for example, and close this out. Done. Okay. Now the other thing I want to do is, because if I've added an image, this is a design principle also. When you add an image, if you put anything on top of the image, it will not look good. So what we do, graphic designers, what do you generally do? You create a translation or you add some kind of background to this image to make it a little bit dull, correct? So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'll create a rectangle on top of it now. How I create a rectangle? I went to the rectangle tool on the top here. This is a tool known as React rectangle tool. Right? It has all the other tools listed there. You can go there and add a rectangle on top of it. So I'm adding a rectangle like this on top of it to the other frame basically, I would say. So create a quick rectangle here. Now I can change its color and opacity. What I will do is I will make it more kind of a gray. Yeah, please go ahead.
Could I get access to the Wi-Fi here? It's not really working.
Wi-Fi. Which cards then I think wo. Yeah.
I have to, but it's not working.
Which network you have? So Geo is working good. I have Geo and Airtel both, but yeah, Geo is working good here as of now. Right. So I'm just making it a little bit more darker here, and I'm going to close its, change its opacity a bit. Let's make it 80%. So you can see it's a little bit transparent. It looks like this. Now in your preview, I'm designing actually as per this view. So my view looks different. Here it looks different a bit. I'm going to just focus on that area here because of the projector. And then I have the effect here. So what I will do is click on the plus in the effect. Go drop down here and change the drop shadow to background blur. So I'm making the background a bit blur and let dull also basically. So making it completely black. Let me see. And okay, there it looks too black now. So I need to, I think, keep this like this. Okay. Yeah, that's better. Maybe I can just do a little bit more down. So I'll keep it like this. So I've basically blurred the image in the background a bit and added a color overlay to it. Now the amount of blur color you add is totally your artistic sense, but you need to maintain the contrast into that. That's why I'm saying that when you add an image in the background, the design becomes more complicated. If it would have been a white design, I would just simply add buttons and text and everything and start designing. Yeah. Yeah. So once you have added a rectangle, right, you need to go to the effect option, click on the plus, then you will have a drop shadow, change it to background blur. Change it to background blur and add it. Now currently I'm not going to technical things over here. For example, you also have a layer blur, which is the similar thing. I could have done on the frame itself this, but it could be a problem for your developer at a later stage. So I'm not going to that part here right now to differentiate between why should you use this method and the other method. I'm just teaching you the ideal method here. Done. So I added that here in this. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to add a button here. I want to create a button to log in or log out, whatever the button is want basically. So I will go here. I take a rectangle tool again. In this, I take a rectangle tool and I will click and drag like this between. Now if you pay attention, I am keeping it between the 4 columns here. That's why I created columns. It makes it easy for me to define the width of a button and align it here because of these columns. So either the principle says that you should not create the button like this. So anything should not end or start in the gutter space because this is a gutter space. This is a gutter space you have. So either I should end here, or if I want to make it bigger, I should end somewhere here. This is okay. This is okay. But you should not end something like this because you need to follow the layout grid you have created in the background and how many columns it span across over here. So like this. Now if you look at all the companies, buttons are generally rounded because it gives you a good feel as a psychological also that the buttons are rounded. It's always better to look at them. So make it a little bit rounded. For that, if you zoom in, you will see a dot there of radius. You will see a dot of radius, or you can go to the design tab and you will find a roundness option here also, counter roundness. You can type a number. Let's say I type a number of 16. So I think 8 will be enough for me. So I do 8 and you can see now the radius is rounded from the end. From the other side, it's a little bit rounded over here to be added. Then I will take a color, change the fill color to be, I'm just taking a random kind of a color right now. Right, I'll take a color here and the color is now added to it. So I created only the base of a button. Now I need to have a text inside of it. Like if you go to PowerPoint, those are coming from PowerPoint and other softwares, you can simply double click to add a text. You can't do that here. The shapes does not allow you to have text in it by double clicking. You need to add another component or text on layer on top of it. So I create a button here, small button. Then I go to the text here and there are right text. I'll say simply currently sample text. There is a reason I'm talking about sample text here. I'm going to make it center lined and keep this text somewhere in the center of it like this over here. Don't worry, the button is big and the sample text looks small, that's okay. You can keep it like this here. So I added a sample text and I can do all the text settings from here. Remember the tool is on the top of the text you have this text tool here, which I took to add a text on top of it. I have not done any grouping, nothing, I just kept it top of it over here. Right? Now what we'll do is, let me just make this a little bit bold probably. Let's keep it like this. Now see, one way is I can group it. Simple group, Control G to group it. So it moves together. This is not what we'll do. What we'll do is we'll convert this button to an auto layout in Figma. Right? So it's like both of them together, and I will right click here and say, I can right click and say there is an option of add auto layout here. Add auto layout. So I click on add auto layout here. I added auto layout. Now a lot of people even don't do this when they use Figma. Especially if you're coming from a background like Photoshop, Illustrator and all, you're still using Figma in a very traditional way. And the reason I'm putting focus on these options are that you should change your mindset. Then only you will be able to utilize Figma properly going forward for creating design systems and etc. So you should follow these things basically, right? So create this. Now you can see it does automatically create a padding of 80, 20, etc. to create a padding over here in this. Maybe I'll reduce this padding a bit. This is already extendable. So I'm going to double click here and just expanding this now. You can see when the text will expand, the button will get too bigger. So I want to keep this pre-expanded a bit, and then I will go here and change this to fit into it. Okay, let me see what is the, okay, it's coming 80 or maybe make it 40 probably, and done. So I have a lot of space in the text to write and my button is ready. Generally we call this as a primary button. So you might have three types of button. One is primary, secondary and tertiary button to be created. Now what is the next step should I do here after creating this button? Anybody who uses Figma? Sorry, what? Yes, I should convert this into a component because I am calling it as a primary button. That means I will be using it again and again in my software, right? Over here. So what I will do is I will select this here and simple, you can right click and create a component. You can right click or there is an option on the top also, create a component. If anything in Figma is a component, it will be shown to you in a purple color. It will be shown to you in a purple color. That means it's a component over here. And I call this as a master component because all the copies you want to take will be the instances of it or child of it, I would say. So this is a master component. And the way I work is, see, I will get a frame here. Then I get a random frame here like this. And I keep all my master components over here. I call it as master components only. That's how my way of working is. I keep all the master component there. And in my actual design, I will only use the childs. So I have the master component kept separately over there. So how to take a child of it? Now if you go to your assets, you will see there's a master component frame. I have a child. I can click and drag this here. And I can use a child of that component here. Those who come from design background of Illustrator and all, you can think about them as symbols also. In Illustrator there is an option of symbols. In an Animate also you have symbols. It's kind of that, but it is much more extended here. You can take that. So just to give you an analogy here, you are bringing it over here and you're bringing a child of a symbol. So what is the benefit of this component is? If you change anything in the parent, the child will automatically change. So let's say now you created 100 of screens and your client comes, change its roundness from 8 to 16. You're doing multiple buttons if you don't get a component here, right? Now I can just change the main component and get updated everywhere across the design system. If you look at Adobe as a software, it has a huge design system. because same button is used in Illustrator, Photoshop, Adobe Express, Premiere Pro, After Effects. So if they make an update in one place, it can update in all the places. And that's the power of design system. That's the power of design system and using this component basically. Adobe has a design system known as Adobe Spectrum. That's the name of their design system. You can go online and check their design system and the foundation of their design system to look at. Adobe Spectrum is the name of their design system they have. So every big company has a design system in place generally for their designing here. And that's the first step you take to their design system here. Right? Okay, so we created a button here. Now the problem would be that when you go here, you want to change this text to login, sign up, whatever it could be. You want to change this text now on the button. So either I can double click here and I can change it, no problems, and I can double click and change it. But I think it's a pain. I need to click 2 times, it's wasting my time. Right? So what we do is, so I don't have to double click here. Anybody here who knows Figma a little bit better? What do you do if I don't have to double click here to change this text? What can I do here?
Create a text property.
Very good. Create a text property of it. Right? So what we'll do is, we will now go back to the master component. Double click on this text box here. Right? And you can see there's a sample text coming here. Just next to it there is an arrow. If I click on it, I can create a text property. Text sample text create property. I'm not changing name right now. See, now if I go to the child and select the child here, you can see text sample text is coming here. I don't need to double click. I just need to select it and type the text here. Let's say log in. Done. The text got updated here. So I don't have to double click multiple times. I have a login added to it over here and done. I can also duplicate this button if I need to. For example, I'll just show you. Click and drag it here. I can duplicate this and let's say I can change this to sign up, for example. I can change that very easily. And again, if I go back to the main component, if I change anything, it will automatically update in both the buttons. That's one of the benefits you have here. Also, it is helpful in your prototyping. If you use, the reason why I'm keeping master components here is because it's easy to do prototyping at a later stage if you keep your master buttons here. I will show that in one other example to do so. Right? Or delete this button as I keep the sign up down, because I want to create an input fields here. So I will create the input field in a similar way, right? So, but kind of a modular design. So I will generally have a label on the top. We have a label for the input field. Then we have the input field itself like this. Do the same roundness 8. I'm not paying a lot of attention to coloring and all here. You can do that. Did this, and then you may write some kind of a text inside it if you need to. Take a text tool and write as a placeholder. Placeholder text here. Keep this left aligned, and probably I think I'll change its colors to, I'm going to make it very, very light here. It's not much visible. Okay, for you it's not visible at all. So I'm going to make it a little bit darker and make this normal. Right. So my input field is ready. So I have text in it. I have a label on the top. Now we'll create them into a different components. So I'll select this placeholder, select this background and create a component out of it, and select this label and create a component out of it. I did not group, remember, I did not group the label with the input. I first created two different components and again I will create a component on top of them. So what I will do is, now I select the label and the placeholder and create a component here. This philosophy of design is known as atomic design, given by Brett Forst in his book basically, and it's a very popular to be followed if you want to create a smaller design system. So what I'm doing is I'm creating atoms. There are individual modules, you can say atoms, and when you combine atoms together, what it becomes? Molecules. So combine two atoms together to create a molecule here. It's kind of a design philosophy or design system by Brett, which given us atomic design. Right. So I can now keep this from here to here. Just two of them. Give me a second. I will put this over here like that. And I will put this also actually here only. Then take a copy of it to be used. I will take a copy of it to be used here. Done. And then I take a copy of it here. Now I can create as many input fields I need because I have this. So I can press Alt, click and drag to create a copy, click and drag to create a copy of it. Done. So I can create something like this. I can of course change the name and everything. I can create again a text property where I can change all this over here in Figma. So what I did, I created a component and replicated it multiple times as instances over here. So it looks like an instance here. Now one more thing, if you notice, when I'm creating this input field or this form, so I'm trying to move it everything down as much as I can. So it is within the reach of the user. Within the reach of the user here. Or when they want to fill it up or do something over here. And I can add a icon or something on the top if I need to. But you remember one thing, you can't make it too down also. Why? No, I tell you. See, either you do two things. If you go to Zomato kind of an app, you will see there will be a nice graphic on the top when the screen will open to you, right? But as soon as you will click on this field, everything will move up. Why? To create a space for your keyboard, right? So if you're keeping it this much down, you need to showcase in your prototype or to tell your developer that that graphic should hide, which I'm going to add, and everything should move up. Otherwise, this button will be hidden behind the keyboard. And in some of the applications, you must have seen this problem. Sometimes you're not able to locate the button because you need to kind of close the keyboard somehow by clicking outside, and then you see the submit button there, right? And that's the issue of designing this way basically. So the developer should move this up when the user clicks on any input field, so they can easily see it or locate it at least, and it's easy to view it, I would say. So I can add a graphic here if I need to. For example, if I want to add a graphic, I can go to a plugin illustration. There's an illustration plugin which can give you a lot of illustrations, nice illustrations to be there, and you can access this plugin to be there. And I'm just waiting for it to load. I just want to show you quickly one thing here. So you have a lot of illustrations with this plugin here. This is all free illustrations. So Figma has an big advantage of using these plugins, and you can find something similar which you need probably. Let's say I need something from this here. I just need to take this artwork. For example, I take this artwork here. I can say just click on once, I can get an artwork here. And in Figma, you also have a scale tool. So ideally, when you want to scale something, you should use the scale tool because it will scale all the boundaries and everything together with it. So I just simply scale this down here. I will keep this up. And now I can change its color to red. Just to basically showcase that this is my design. Now remember the pixel of proximity, I will keep this up on a login screen. And kind of my login screen is kind of ready, I would say. I can add some more elements at the bottom. Generally in the login screen, I should give an option here. If you already have an account, sorry, if you don't have an account, please create account. When you have a create account option, I should say log in here if you already have account. So you should keep that message at the bottom here. I will show the finished design here also, but I have added this over here. Okay. Now I can take a copy of it. Control. I'm pressing Alt to take a copy of it. I can also take a copy of it here. One more thing, actually, this happened with me now. So I just want to show you something. Let's say if I select this frame, I want to look at it in a mobile layout, I can click on this play button. It will show me a layout coming like this. See, it's creating a preview of it. Okay, it's a preview and shows me here. Right? Why is that graphic not visible which I added? Yeah, so this is a common problem. Those who are going to start new in Figma, right? Those who are experienced, you already know it now. Those who are going to start with Figma generally, right? What will happen is that sometimes, see, visually here it is visible, right? So it is on the top of the frame. It looks like to be, but it is not inside the frame. So if you look at its layer structure here, you will see the illustrations coming separately on the top. It's not in the part of the iPhone group, right? It's not a part of the iPhone group. That's why it is not visible there. So I have to move this, click and drag this manually to put it inside this frame, kind of nest the frame inside of it. Now if I go to the preview, you would see that the graphic will be coming back. It's just reloading and the graphic will be back over here. And you can see that graphic over here now. So it was because it was outside of the frame here. This outside of the frame here and this. So I will not be doing full designing because we are also running out of time and all. But I just want to give you a little bit gist of this basically. So after you design screens like this, what you do is you do prototyping. You will connect these screens together here. So let me open this design which I already showed you before also on a quick basis. I think it was in my app. So like this. So similar screen I'm trying to show you basically here. See, it's a same one which I have just designed here. Let me delete this frame for a minute. A section I will call it. You can see this is what I have just designed. This is how would I design a proper login screen with an icon, welcome back, picture, labels. They are all the components you can see here. Right? I have see don't have an account, sign up. Also giving the option to log in with social media here. Yes. Now if I go here, if I show you the same component in the button, I have created variants also. So component has an option to create multiple variants in it. Now why will you create a variant? For example, on a button you have a hover effect. When you click on a button, there is a press effect. For creating all those effects, you will create a variant of a button here. So what happens when you go to preview of the same login screen here, because it has a variant added to it with a prototype, you would see that, see, changing. So it makes it feel more lively here to be there, to be added. Yes. Where you're saying, okay, here, this one, it is not compulsory that you should use black here, first of all, right? Actually, it looks more reddish over here, to be frank. It is not that red which you see here, but it's basically I'm following the same design, right? Means my primary color was red. So it doesn't mean that your primary color is red, so you will use red on the background. This is just to explain people when I teach, right? That you can also have a drop shadow instead of black to something else. Now there is a shift happening here that people don't use just black color as a shadow because they are so used to it. So not too prominent, but a little bit of red can be added. This is too prominent here, to be frank. In my screen, it is not that much prominent. It's kind of a little bit blackish red, I would say. not that much here, right? It's more, it's kind of a glowing here, I would say, on this screen right now, which you see, right? So I have this. For example, if you look at this also, I have, what I have done is I've created a prototype here. See, if I click on this, it says John Smith already coming. If I click on this, automatically a password or a John Smith will come there, right? Again, this I have done with variants. I can get variants of this. If I show the variant here of the component, again going back, you will see a variant coming here. So variant is here. So this is the variant I have created. So when I click on it, I switch to this line, and then the line basically comes animated. When the smart animate feature of animate, I can animate it over here to be added. Okay, so how do you create a prototype here? It's going to be very simple, not very difficult. Let's say if I go back to the browser here, and this, I already take a copy of it, and let's say I just change this text to sign up. For example, just to show you here, I change this to sign up. Like this. And I want to connect these two buttons together, for example. So what I can do is I can go to the prototyping stage. What is the prototype? Automatically, you will select the button, you will see a plus sign coming to it. You can simply click and drag it to the other screen, and says on tap, navigate to this screen with instant, means no animation. Or I can choose a transition. Let's say I choose a transition of slide in. So there will be a transition happening now if you look at it. So if I now close it and I go to preview here, now it's going to open within Figma here as a preview. And if I click here, you will notice it goes to the other screen. So this is how simple it is to create a prototype here. But Figma has limitations to it in certain extent. For example, you can't really type into that input field. It does not give that option. For that, you need to go to advanced softwares. You may go to pro.py, pro.io, you may go to Azure RP, you might go to Framer. There are different softwares in prototyping you have. You want to go very interactive prototype you want to create, and you want to spend more time there. Figma is making it kind of limited because they want you to create quick prototypes here and focus on designing of the UI more. So you have that feature in other softwares where you can import your Figma file and you can use it if you need to. Now one more thing, you don't have to wait, you don't have to save anything here. It's automatically saving everything in background. So no control S, nothing. It will keep saving for background for you. Nothing has to be done here. However, just want to make you aware about it. Your internet should always be active. What happens sometimes is when you're working, especially in a desktop app, and your design is open, and if your internet is not connected, you can continue working on that particular file. But what will happen is, if you close that file in that time, you will lose everything. You will lose everything. Sometimes I say this generally happens if you're traveling in a train or you're working, you're going somewhere, you're sitting in a car. So there's a feature Figma offers you that before you close your Figma, when your internet connection is not there, let's say you're aware about it, so you can go to this Figma file option, and you can go to the file and you can save a local copy. You can try saving a local copy of it, right? Because when the network will connect back, it can lose your work basically, because it will try to sync with the network there. So that could be an issue which you might face in Figma over here when using it and working with it. So just be aware of that when you're using it. Now Figma also has I will not be able to teach you, sorry for that, because we have limited time now and all of you want to go home. But if I click out, if you look at local variables here, so Figma has an option of variables into it. Currently in beta, as soon as it gets out of beta in mid of the 2016, so 2024, it will be out of beta. Then it will be a paid feature, means it will be only available in the pro licensing. But if you look at it, I have already created alternative colors here. So what I'm saying is that I have a light color theme. I want this settings in that theme. In a dark theme, I need all these settings. So it is one level above component also, known as variables, or known as design tokens nowadays, right? And for example, I told you about this application, this button. I made a value of 8 here, right? Radius. Now I want this value of 8 in multiple objects. I will have some cards, some other buttons, some other places I will need the same value 8. So I can create a variable of this number 8. And if I change that variable, it will change every design component I have, just not the button itself. So it's going to be highly scalable in terms of change and updations, I would say, when you use this feature, right? Variables. For example, I'm using it here. Like I showed you, just because I've set up this properly, I can simply go here, go to the mode of the layer here. Let me show that mode quickly. Go here, I can go to the mode here of the layer. I can now switch it to darker theme. Got change in one click. If you look at it, all the colors got translated automatically. You can do language translation also with this. You want to create, let's say, one layout of English Hindi. So instead of copy pasting those designs, you can just create two variables of it. That in English we will have this text, in Hindi I will have this text. I can automatically change it over here for you, changing on the way depending on the mode here. And for example, I have used radius here. If you look at it, but I think in some places you have used radius 8. Now if I go to the variable, master variable of radius 8, and if I change this to, let's say, 16 over here, then it will basically update in a lot of places here. Like it has already updated here, because I think I have not overwritten it. So now it becomes automatically 16 here. So if you're coming from other design softwares, use components, variables and styles. This is my highly recommendation to you. One more benefit of component I'm going to quickly show you here. That's the last thing as a prototype I'm going to talk about here quickly. See, I have created a bottom navigation here. Bottom navigation here. Now those bottom navigation buttons are over here. Let's say you create 100 of screens now. So if someone goes, click on explore here on a screen, from any screen he can come to the first screen. So you have other 99 screens, for example. Ideally, if you don't keep a master component here, you need to connect all those 99 screens to first screen manually. But what I have done is, I have connected this master component to the first screen I have here. So it connects all the other child screens automatically back over here. You can see it's automatically connecting it back from here to here. Or if you look at this, it will be connecting it back. I think it's our child, so it's this one you can see. It's connecting it automatically back here. And that's why you should keep master components in the same page. So you can connect your master component to the screen, and all the screens which are using the child will automatically be connected there. For example, I have also using this back button. It also has a prototype added to it. So if I go to the back button here, I will add a function to this here basically. And add a function to this also. Let me add it here. Interaction, say on tap, go back. Done. I add an interaction here. And it will automatically be added to all the childs, you can see. If I go here, see, tap back, automatically added to it here in the Figma here. So you create a prototype. Once your prototype is ready, now this is again a development feature. You can select this here. Your developer can use a dev mode. Most likely you will not use it, but your developer can use it. Earlier we used to give them images, resources separately, etc. They can use a dev mode. Once your design is ready, they can look at the screen. They can look at what colors you have used, what assets you have used. They can simply download from here themselves. Whatever size, whatever they need, format, they can download from here. Currently, you don't have like manually give them, right, with an email or something. They can download everything from here. Plus, they can get the code also. And now Figma works with Visual Studio Code as well. So you can see your design right in Visual Studio Code, and from there the developer can take the advantage of that code from there directly.
So good question. There will be an order in those pages basically when it says
Yes. So there is no order to it as such, but yes, for example, this is the start of the flow. If you go to the prototyping here, it will say this is flow 1. That means the flow starts from here. Right? The flow will start from it, and then how you connect will depend your flow. Will define your flow here.
if I want 4 like slides into the place of second, then it will
Placement doesn't matter here. So this screen, even if you keep this screen somewhere here, it doesn't matter. The placement does not matter here. Placement can be anywhere you want to do it. It's that how you're connecting it. That's what matters here. So this placement is it's like this because when you design, you design one by one screen. So of course I'm going in a sequence here, I would say, but the placement doesn't matter. Placement doesn't matter at all unless until you want to show someone that this is the flow of it. In the prototyping, flow has no meaning to it in this basically to be added, right? And you can also do smart animate like this. In Figma, there's an option of smart animate. If I show you the preview here, see this one. This will animate. The screen will be blank initially, and then all the animates will be flying into the screen. See, now it will start after delay, and you can see it's now having that animation here. So you can use smart animate to create animations as well here. Kind of basic animation. You can also create advanced animation with plugins. You can get customized animation in After Effects. You can bring it here as Looty files to be used with JSON file. You can do all that over here if you need to, right? So pretty powerful software, but only powerful when you use main three features: components, variables, and styles. Remember. And if you want to go a little bit more ahead, you should use auto layouts as well. What auto layouts can do is, I show you one quick example. Means that's the last thing I want to probably show you here. Now it takes efforts to build this thing which I'm going to talk about here. This is what I've created with breakpoints variables. I'm just opening that example here. See, so if I go to this body here, I can easily switch to view it in larger screen. I can also see how to look in the middle screen and in a small screen of a mobile. Right? Automatically you can see the layout got changed. That is a combination of auto layouts with variables. That's break-even point basically here, and constraints in Figma basically. Constraints and auto layout are similar basically, I would say, to work with them. So you can basically show your developer that this is how to look in the web, this is how to look in the tablet, and this is how to look in the mobile. So they can design it accordingly. They can work accordingly. And you can show your stakeholder, anyone basically who is there, you can show them here. Now, if you want to really, I don't sponsor anyone or do something like this, but personally, this is my personal resource. You want to learn Figma in detail and nicely, and if you understand English like easily, then you can go to this website, or there's moonlearning.in. I have no affiliation with them, nothing like that, but this is one of the resource. I find it personally very, very to the point, easy to follow on, right? Of course, you have a lot of YouTube videos. I will not deny that you have a lot of Udemy and YouTube videos to watch. But you want to do a structured learning in Figma, you can go to this. This is not kind of cheap or expensive, not very expensive, not very cheap. It should cost you around, I think, 2,500 something like for a month. And if you can do all the courses in 1 month, then you can just stop the subscription, I would say. But good tutorial you're going to find here, kind of updated. They teach you all this basically, variables, auto layouts and everything. You want to learn Figma in detail here. Actually, you can go to this website here. Okay. Unfortunately, I can't teach you all the Figma here, but I'm open to all the questions and queries you might have. Yes.
One question is, you said that it is very similar to Sketch.
Yes.
Can we import Sketch designs into Figma?
Yes.
Yes. So basically, what happens is you can import sketch files if you want to here, right? And you can simply drag and drop it, will automatically convert it. But what I've seen personally is that there could be some issues in small like components and all here. But yes, you can bring your sketch files over here. If you have been designing team as well, you can switch it here. A lot of teams have already done it. Even Apple has switched from Sketch to Figma now. Now, Apple is an official partner of Figma, and they are creating all their new UI kits in Figma itself. They are not using Sketch now, right? Because Sketch is kind of dying now because it doesn't have, this offers you very great collaboration features compared to what no other software is doing actually. And also Figma is going much ahead in the industry.
The drawings in Fresco and
Sorry, drawings which you create. Fesco. I think for that you need to bring in an image. You can't bring it Fesco file directly here, but you can export those files in PNG, whatever JPG and all, and you can bring them here. That will work. You can basically bring that here, right to with here. So I really appreciate your time for listening from morning to evening on this Sunday. Thank you for coming, and all of you have been a very patient participants, I would say. So thank you to all of you listening to me. I hope you enjoyed this workshop. You got to learn something in UX and UI. Those who want to take a leave, you can take a leave. I'm here to answer your queries if you have, right? Because I think it's already time, so some of you want to rush, and it's a Sunday evening, so I don't want to hold you back. Please go ahead. In this. So designing a UI is now going towards more flatter and simpler designs compared to what it was before. And that's how you can make your app look a little bit modern. Then you have principle of continuation in visual design. It says elements arranged in a line or a soft curve are perceived to be more related than those who are randomly or in a harsh line. In short, if I talk about if you create any layout, you should show a sense of continuation in it. For example, if you look at related products at the bottom, generally it has a continuation in one line. They're not randomly thrown here and there. You can see here also there is a principle of continuation applied. From top to bottom, continuation applied here. So you're moving in a particular direction and you're showing continuation here. Important. And the most important thing is the principle of alignment here now. Now all of you know alignment, right? But we still do mistakes in it. Especially those who are new, you will be very keen to do center alignment. People who are new in designing, those who are experienced might not do that. But for example, if I show you this layout, what is the problem here? See, this is how your brain sees it. This is how your brain is seeing it. And think what will be easy for you to understand. The straight line or that curve line? Straight line. Now look at this. More tidy, it looks more cleaner and easy to scan for users. If you look at newspaper, they are perfectly aligned in columns. They even use something called as optical margin alignment for quotes and everything to be outside of the alignment line. So it maintains that strict straight line there in newspapers. So alignment is an important role, and all of you must be knowing about it. Should not do center alignment if it is more than 1 or 2 lines of text. You should never center align the text, right? If you have too many words to it. But don't solely rely on the numbers. Have you heard a word known as optical alignment? Okay, I'll show you something here. Look at these 2 icons here. Look at the first one. It's a mathematical line. You can see both these percentages 24 and 24. So mathematically it is exactly in the center of it, right? But does it look in center? Why? If you look at this one, not mathematically aligned, but looks aligned to you, right? Looks aligned to you here. The reason is visual balance. But why that visual balance is getting disturbed here?
Because the left side is heavier than the right.
Correct.
The triangle is visually heavier on the left and lighter on the right.
Correct.
It needs to be optically.
Yes, it needs to be optically aligned here. And this is also some newbies who are starting in the UI designing or designing field do this mistake. You're aligning heavily by the number always. Sometimes you have to align optically. There are a lot of cases here. I show you some more cases here. Look at this. Now tell me which one is bigger and smaller. Size is exactly same, but square looks little bit more dominating to you, right? And bigger, little bit bigger. Not saying it's a huge difference, but visually you will feel it's more heavier and bigger to it. The reason is because of the rounded edges there. So what we say is make the circle a little bit bigger in the cube. So draw the circle in the cube and make the edges a little bit outside of it. So it visually aligns. If you want to align circle and the square together. Back to, and how you will align it? Now you may think we will never use this. Generally we don't use square with a circle. I show you an example here. Right? So let's say you're creating an input field which will generally be a squared ones, and then you will have a circle here around it. That's to be visually aligned. So if you look at the first line, here in the first one, the size of this and this is same, exactly the same. They are matching visually, means mathematically. But here I made the circle a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger. So it fits. But if you look at the second row, if I don't want to make it bigger, if I don't want to make it bigger by the mathematical part, I add a background to add a more visual weight to it. So it will look similar, basically similar size here. And that's the difference between the top one and the bottom one. So here the same icon is a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger. And here it is the same size, but we are adding a black background to it. So we're giving a more visual weight on it, adding more visual weight in it to be there. Okay. कर दिए? अच्छा. Right? So now if you look at it here, also this is kind of a ribbon effect. So we're aligning it a little bit to the extra here because of the visual weight again. So optical alignment is very, very important when you are starting in the UI. You are starting in the UI here. One of the last principles I want to talk about here quickly about is the Hicks law, which is used in layout and composition here. Hicks law. Have you heard about this law before? Anyone? No? Okay. It is very simple. It can be applied in the real life also. Whether if you're a businessman, if you're doing some kind of business, doing anything, you can apply there also. So it can be there as well. It simply says, Hicks law simply says, the time it takes to make a decision increase with the number and the complexity of choices. For example, if you go to Haldiram, you want to have something. You can get North Indian, you can get Chinese, you can get South Indian, you can get any kind of food there. And if you're not pre-decided what to eat, you might take 15-10 minutes to just decide what to eat or what to have. But if you talk about going to a South Indian restaurant, just let's say they only offer South Indian to you, the decision might become easier for you to do it because you will have limited choices to order from. That is what means Hicks law, but not true for everything. Remember, this does not go with Amazon. Right? Amazon wants to give you as much as options possible, but they are also limiting it. How? It will only show you some products, like up to 10 products on one particular page. Then you have to go to the other page to see the other more products, right? So in one time, it's trying to show you only 10, 5, 20 products. If you go to any e-commerce, you go to Myntra, you can keep scrolling, but in the first screen, you're seeing only 20, 10 products at a particular time. Then you can of course scroll down to get more products. But it's trying to limit your choice to that particular products here, right? If you talk about Apple as a strategy, Apple only offers certain line of phones, right? It is easier to make a decision between Apple probably compared to if you want to buy an Android phone, because you have a lot of choices. You have Samsung, you have a lot of other brands which are there, OnePlus and etc. So if you increase the choices with the number, the complexity of the choices also increase. This is the sixth law. Yes.
What do you think that when we open a web page like Amazon or something, we get 20 listing at one go, 20 product listing, and then you have a button to like load more. Which one would you like suggest an infinite scroll of that same section, like 4 objects in a row, or you want to give a load more button?
I think I would say infinite scroll is also okay, because at one particular time you're only seeing certain products in the screen. So they both are the similar things, I would say, because when you click on load more also, it just simply loads it, and scroll more is just simply kind of scrolling it. But there could be an application here. For example, if it's a e-commerce like Myntra and all, infinite scroll is okay. But I'm a company where people want to look at my footer also, right? Then view more makes more sense, because in infinite scroll what happens is you keep scrolling, you will never reach to the footer of the website. People are not able to locate the footer at any point of time, which is a problem sometimes. So view more makes more sense in cases where people can also look at my footer and view the information as a navigation.
Banking application where you have large data like a statement, account statement, sheet, you have page navigation, right? There, people might see that if you have an infinite scroll,
I would not suggest to have it.
Yeah, data takes time to load up, so like wait time is more.
Only not wait time, it will be very heavy for the backend also to load all the data in one go. So to look at the optimization of the technical side also. Plus, there would be a little bit more information below this. If you create an infinite scroll, it will be very difficult for the user to look at it. So of course, there I will not put infinite scroll. For e-commerce, it's okay, I would say, to have it, but not in a banking option basically, right? Then there is another law known as Fitts law, which you should remember. What it means? Fitts law, as per a search study, it says easier to hit a target that's bigger and closer to you than a target that is smaller and further away from you. It will be easy to access a button or a target which is bigger and closer to you compared to which is far away from you and smaller, right? For example, if you look at Instagram is a great example of it. If you look at follow button, if you look at like icon, if you look at save icon, they are bigger. Those icons are bigger. On the side also get a bigger icon, at the bottom also get a follow icon here, right? But the other text is a little bit small there. So of course you should focus on your primary function. So make your button bigger and put at the bottom on your mobile phone, because it's easier to reach there, easier to reach, right? So if you look at, if you go and log out from Zomato and all this kind of app, you will see they have very big buttons at the bottom given to you to have it and to be added. And this laws, we call it as uxlaws.com, laws of ux.com. You will find a lot of principles like Fitts law I talked about, right? There are a lot of laws you have here which are given to you in this. You have Jacob's law, you have a lot of other. Yeah, this link you can basically write down, known as links, laws of ux, laws of ux.com. That's the link you have here to write it down and to use it, right? And you will find a lot of principles here. The example I told you of the credit card is known as Miller's law. Here. Okay. So you can go and read here. Now we'll talk quickly about one thing only, because it's a very big topic though, about a little bit about typography. Text is important when you look at it, right? So I want to simply ask you, There are two types of fonts you might be knowing, serif and sans serif, right? Which one should you use where? Sans serif where? On mobile UI, and serif print. Why?
One is it takes too much space. The serif. It was made for print. Okay.
Yes.
Sans serif is cleaner, easier to.
First of all, it's more modern also, we simply say.
Yeah.
So the serif, it looks very traditional generally, used for print, very good for print because there is no pixels present there. Print is a printed material, right? When you have a digital screen, serifs are better. The reason the serifs are better is because they don't merge the pixels together. Because of the stems, the serif, those who don't know what is sans serif and serif is, serif has the stems to it. Like Times New Roman is a serif font. If you look at the sans serif, it does not have the extended edges to it. So, it is sans serif as a font to it. Now, because they don't have the extended edges, it's easy to read. In a digital screen and even a small text size, you can easily read it because of the non-extended edges to it, and it's easy to look at it. This font, it's also easy. If you look at any software, for example, Android uses which font? Knows? Anybody knows which font is used by Android by default? No? Roboto. Roboto is used by Android, which is a sans serif font. And if you talk about iOS, uses SF Pro, which is also a sans serif font. If you go to Figma, by default the font is set to Inter, which is a sans serif font. If you go to Microsoft Office Word, what is of font you have is Calibri. Approx, yes, is a new one. But they all are sans serif fonts here. They all are sans serif fonts here, right? So you should use sans serif font when you're making a selection of a font. Just remember, choose sans serif font for a safer side. There are few exceptions. For example, if you go to New York Times, they use serif, which is okay. I say there are exceptions because that's how they want to represent their brand, right? In headings and all, you can use sans serif. Where the text is big, you can use it. But for smaller text, you should always rely on sans serif, right? That's what the rule says basically here. Now, I want to talk about the type scaling here, right? Type scaling. You cannot give everything a equal visual weight when you're designing a website or an app, whatever it could be. So don't give visual weight to everything. If you look at it on the top here, the heading is 18 pixels, then you have 13 pixels, then 11 pixels, 26, 15, 13, 12, 17 like this. No. How you should do is like this. So if you look at it, 18, 14, 14, 24. What I'm trying to show you over here is, it will be a nightmare for your developer if the screen which I showed you previously. Because as a UI designer, over here you are using different scales. Somewhere you're using 17, 14, 13, 15, 26, 11. And anybody who is a web developer here can understand how many CSS you need to create. And there will be not of consistency in your design. And your developer will not even look at this font size so many. He will be going mad at you, right? So that's why we say in Figma you should create text styles, predefined styles, and use them. So you can build consistency in your design, because here you are using different sizes altogether. So you should have consistency in your design. So you should have predefined fonts been created and been used here. So you have for a little bit bigger 18, then 14, 24, 14, 14, 14, 14, 14. Though the visual weight can be different, maybe you can make it bold and all, that's a different thing. But don't use too many different sizes of text. Because a developer needs to create a CSS, predefined CSS for them. It will be very difficult for them to do this. Plus, you not have consistency in your design if you do it. So maintain and look at it. you want to choose fonts, you can look at some of the, like this is some common fonts which I love. I'm just displaying here. You have Oxygen, Into, Poppins. I like Poppins a lot. You have NoteSense. OpenSense is a little bit more common. I would say people are very getting used to it, right? Inter, yeah, Inter, which now Figma is using Inter basically. So I mentioned about Inter also here. There are some fonts. I will give you this presentation anyways, right? You have Inter font also if you look at it. Okay, so Inter is now used by Figma also. It is also a variable font. I'm telling that, right? Inter is also a variable font. What does variable font mean? Yeah, it has basically a slider. Let's say currently you need to choose from regular to bold or regular to medium, but let's say you want something between regular and medium, you can't get it. Sometimes you don't, like in a normal font you can't get it. Let's say you want something between medium and regular, you can't get it. But with the variable font you get a slider now, and you can slide it to choose a particular size which you need, which mimics the CSS code also actually. So that's why you have a variable fonts, and Figma supports variable fonts, by the way. Okay, I'm going to quickly switch to, because we're losing time, so we'll talk quickly about color basics, a bit of it, and how to use them in UI. And this is one of the biggest problem people face when coming to designing UIs with colors, especially those who are new. And if you don't understand colors, it's going to be a difficult job for you to do it, right? So I will not go into typical thing. I also have this basically, but I think not very important for all of you. In short, all these screens are made of RGB colors. One is red, green, blue. All of you might be knowing. They're also known as the primary colors in your colors. So I'll not go into depth of that principles here. But I just want to ask all of you: what is a shade? What is a tone? And what is a tint?
Shade is when white, black, white,
Okay. Okay. Yes. And what is tone? And what is gray known as? Okay. So you have color divided into three things: hue, saturation, brightness. Correct? Hue, saturation, brightness. So if you adjust the saturation, you are adjusting the tone of a color, right? And when you are adjusting the brightness of a color, you are changing the shade or a tint of a color, right? For example, let's say if I have this red, and if I tell you to change the shade of it, that technically means you should go to a darker side in the brightness. If I tell you to change the tint of it, you should go towards the white side. And if I tell you to change the tone of it, that means you need to change the saturation of that color. That's what technically it means. You can read online. I'm not going depth about it over here, but that's what it means here. Now let me come to one rule directly, which is the color UI rule. Very famous rule. People also use this in finance. Not this one, sorry. I will talk about this one only. Known as 60-30-10 rule. 60-30-10 rule here, right? So first of all, generally you will have a color palette for your app. You will generally have a primary color, you will have a accent color, and then you might have a criteria color, right, to be there. Now let's say you have identified these three colors here. It's not very much visible, but I have these three colors. One is this, one is this, and one is this. These are the three colors I have. Now I'm going to design a UI or a screen based on these three colors. So I can do something like this. So I'm using one of the color has 60% here. If you look at it, the other color has 30% and the remaining color is 10% for my primary actions, known as call to actions basically. So we divide this into 60-30-10 rule. One of the easiest way to design a UI in terms of colors. And I have flipped the same thing here if you look at it. 60% is used this much, 30% is this much, and 10%. You see. So you can divide into like you don't have to do a hard maths here, but what we're trying to say is that 10% can be reserved for the main call to action buttons, which you have.
So you're saying only 3 colors is what we should look at and not more. It can't be 5, 6, 7 or 3.
It can be, but generally the rule says you should not have too many colors, right? You can have 4 also, but if you look at any app right now, go to Zomato, go to Swiggy, go to Domino's, etc. Cred. If you look at any application, look at their colors. Amazon also, if you look at it. If you look at Flipkart also, how many colors they have? Flipkart is blue, orange, 2 colors, right? White, and we don't include the neutral colors. So white and black is always there. White and black is always there, right? So that doesn't mean that you have 3 colors, then you can't use white and black. You can use white and black. They are neutral colors. We call them as neutral colors, so you can always use them. And just one guidance I want to give to all of you, those who are not designers. Please do not try designing a app or a website with a black background or having an image behind it. It makes your designing much more difficult, right? If you keep your background white, plain white, and you design something, it's much easier because you're using a neutral background. Lot of developers, people who are newbies, they like to verify. I don't know why they put different colors in the background of it. I can show you a lot of examples which I have as a bad designs which my students create. What they do is they simply make this as a black color in the background and they try to design something on it. It makes the thing look very bad actually overall.
But generally, hasn't the switch happened from into mode, light mode and
It is done. Yes, I completely agree with you. Black ही होता है, but it is done by generally experienced designers. I'm saying when you're newbie and just creating a portfolio or doing it, then it is not compulsory to design both dark and white basically. You can do that. I will just show you in Figma that now how it is easy to also switch between the dark and good light mode in Figma with using variables. But this is a rule you can remember. But one more thing I have though with this, that sometimes you need more colors. Remember, I show you this UI now. This is what I was talking also about it. Look at this, right? So this is what I'm trying to explain. People had yellow background, black background, some kind of a background. It just makes the whole thing look crap, to be frank. And also makes your color management difficult over here. Look at this. Much better. But what I'm trying to, like what Shisha said is that can we just design with 3 colors? Not always. You need more colors, but in a subtle way. Remember. So if you look at this layout, for example, in my color palette, I did not have the red color, but I'm still using for notification icon there, which is okay. I did not have the yellow color in my color palette, but I'm using the yellow for my error message or caution message basically. Right? So I'm still using the yellow there. If I have to show a success message, I will use green color there. So you're allowed to use this. It's not that you can't use other colors, but your main color should remain in the main UI and rest you can add on it. Plus you can create different shades of the color of the main color, known as monochromatic design basically. So typically you should create shades of the color here like this. I think I don't have it here, but you should create a shades of the color for each color. I will show you in Figma when I go to Figma here. So make it easy. For example, if you look at the error, this caution message on the top, it has the same yellow actually. All of them are yellow only. Even that, oops, it says no, it's not yellow, but it's a darker shade of yellow. Then there's a lighter shade of yellow and there's a medium shade of yellow there used. The color is still yellow, but we are using a monochromatic design to design that error message on the top which you see over there. Okay. This is what I was talking about previously. Do not rely on color solely. If you look at the previous screen here, there are no arrows there. And here we have added a arrow, up and down arrow, if you look at it. Why? Because people can be color blind. You need to remember this. People can be color blind here. Contrast is important to look at. You can see all these are failing in the contrast. Approved, waiting approval, declined, they are all failing in the contrast. And people say to me, if we follow contrast, then the UI will not look good. I like these colors and everything. Yes, that's okay. But I have a solution for this. You can flip the colors. So instead of making it dark, so it looks weird. So what we did? We flipped the colors. So I'm using that darker color into the text and making the background color lighter. Maintaining the visual design and still having the contrast in my application. Instead of doing the first option which you saw there. To do it. So there are a lot of things like this you can do in coloring to make it perfect in the visual design. Of course, a very big topic and nobody can teach you this. This comes with practice. Want to practice this? I tell one thing, if you're starting new as a person into the coloring, you can go to this website, movin.in. On the world's largest mobile and web design library it has. Right? What it lets you do is, what this website lets you do is, Mobile is a website which has screenshots of the applications. For example, you want to look at Netflix without installing on your phone. You can look at how the Netflix design looks like here. You want to look at Spotify, you want to look at Airbnb, any kind of application you can basically search over here. And site name is Mubin. Okay, it's not visible. I think I thought this is the one that's too small. I think, yeah. So mobbin.com. And if you are newbie as a designer, what you should do? Take some screens from here, replicate them in Figma. Just create them as it is. It will tune your mind in terms of what font to use, what spacing to use, what colors to use. Just copy them. Just copy them as it is. Or you can just take a app on your phone, take a screenshot of it and design it exactly the same way. Just trace it out kind of thing. It will help you learn design. And then ask yourself why this color have been used here. Why this font has been used here. If you challenge that, you can learn the designing much easier instead of just watching YouTube videos and all. Because you can watch one thing, you will be able to create that. But when you will have a real life example to design something, you're going to have a challenge there. What color should I take? What should I do now? And those who are new, it might take up to like 4 months, 5 months to start designing in that way. Those who are already experienced and you are good. If you're coming from graphic design field, you already understand colors. You already understand some psychology of colors and all to play with it. So you can use them. But if you're coming from graphic design, also you need to remember you need to maintain contrast. Look at contrast. Look at the color variations you can use in it. Because in graphic design, you are much more open to do anything, generally. But when it comes to UI designing, you need to limit your colors. You need to help your users to understand something. Right? Okay. So, I'm almost done with the theoretical part. I told you a lot of theory here today. But some of the essential theory here in the UX design. Now, we will talk about overview of Figma. Right? Now this is going to be a practical example of Figma I'm going to do. Talk about a little bit about Figma. But before I start with it, you can get a pro licensing for free of Figma if you don't want to pay them and if you want to just use for education or for learning purpose here. First of all, you will have to create an account in Figma. So you will have to go here. Let me give you a minute here. Right. You don't have to open your laptops. I will tell you when to open laptops because before that we will do the certification and all. Then we will talk about Figma. Right? Figma.com, you go there. This is the website. Those who don't know about Figma at all, it's a software which you can use in your web browser. No need to download, but you need internet connection. right? You can't use this without internet connection. It's a software which work across any browser you can use almost. I've used in multiple browsers. It works seamlessly, right? However, there's a desktop app also you can download. If you want to, you can download the app. But the same principle applies on the app also. You need internet connection to use it. Okay? There is no difference between desktop app and the web app. There is no difference. It's exactly the same. It works in the same way, exactly same. It is just the convenience that you have an app, so you can basically use an app. That's the only convenience you have. However, for Mac users, there is one advantage of using Figma app. Not an advantage, I would say it's kind of an error though. When I use it on a web browser on my Mac's Figma, I can't copy paste between the files. So I'm not able to copy paste between the files. Let's say I have file A and B, I want to copy something from A to B. I can't do it on the web browser, but I can do it on the desktop app. So if you face that issue of copy paste, you can just open the desktop app and you can do it. The Mac users, Windows, it works perfectly fine. I've used on Windows, it works perfectly fine. So you don't need it. Now you can sign up for free. It gives you a free account. Nothing has to be done. You can basically get an account with them. If you already have an account, that's good. You generally get a free account with them. Now, see, any software over the years go towards the paid, to be frank, right? And this is what Figma is also doing now. They are bringing a lot of features new, which is actually available to only paid users. Like the dev mode is only available to paid features now. Soon your variables, which is a good option in Figma, will also be going to the paid versions only, right? So it gives you different plans. I think it's not very expensive. It's cheap to buy Figma per month, $12. You can get unlimited files. You can do advanced prototyping and etc. in it to be there. Actually, in the free version also you can have unlimited files. But you can only have limited files in a team. So there's a concept of team in Figma. There you can only have 3 files. Right? You can only have 3 files there. But when you use a draft version in Figma, you can have unlimited files in a free version. I have to be very frank. Now, how can you get up? You can basically go to the figma.com/pricing and /. If you're already a member of Figma, then you will have to go to this URL specifically. figma.com/pricing / you will come to this page which I am here. And then what you can do is, you can say I am a student or an educator and you can apply for it. Let's say if you're a IIT student here right now, if you're studying in a college or somewhere else, or maybe you're attending some kind of a course online, you can basically apply for this education license. And you will get Figma for free, almost up to 2 years. But of course, it says that you can't use commercial work and all. That's a different story. No one's going to catch you, but yeah, you can do that if you need to, right? So you can click on student for educators and you can say get verified here. So I show you the verification here. You will come to a page. So get verified. You need to be already logged in. Okay, it says I'm already authenticated here. Let me just change my account. I have 2 accounts in Figma. So I'll switch to the other one. So I can show you the screen which comes after that. So get verified. And it will, okay, it's still not. Now I think it should do it. Let's see. Yeah, it will come to this page you can see here, right? So you can say I'm a student or an educator, let's say. Now in terms of institution, you can choose here, right? Let's say you can choose a bootcamp or an online program also, right? Over here, you can choose any bootcamp, or let's say if you have a kid going to a school, right? You can select K-12 here, right? And tell his school name and just apply for it. That's it, right? So generally, for example, when I do bootcamp training, so people select bootcamp here. You can type why you need it. You can type your school name. You can say school name not listed here. If you can't find the school name, that's okay. You can simply not listed and you can type your school name. Let's say IIT. I say IIT Delhi, for example. You can give a school website, right? I can give IIT.com, for example. Then I can do the primary study, whatever I belong to, I can choose that. And you can upload up basically a copy of a receipt if you need. You don't need that. You can apply without that also if you need to. You can specify your course URL, graduation date, say yes, yes, and submit. Most likely it will be approved, right? In K-12, you don't even do this. If you are, let's say, K-12 or into another program, you can go to the K-12, you can simply say yes, yes, and submit over here, right? And you can get a education license for practicing and for learning Figma in advance without paying them actually, right? And generally it gets automatically approved by Figma. Generally gets automatically approved by Figma. You can simply say yes, yes, and submit them if you need to. But your ID should be changed to the institution. Okay, so what I will do is, so Figma has gone a very advanced. So like one of you asked me about this demo. So if you look at this screen, this is a dark mode design I have. And if I just click on it, I can just switch it in one go by using variables, see light theme or dark theme, right? So I'm doing in the background, I've done a mapping of colors. It automatically changes the color if I'm switching between the dark mode and the light mode here. So it has made the designing much easier in Figma because of variables of colors and design. These are design tokens in some of the softwares, design tokens which are there into the software. Now, one thing before you start with Figma, anybody who wants to learn Figma and use Figma, you need to remember, especially graphic designers coming from Photoshop, Illustrator and all. I'll tell you one thing. Utilize the features of Figma. If you're not utilizing it, you are going to back traditional software. What I mean is, there are few things important in Figma. One is the components, variables, and styles. These three things you need to keep in mind to use it always. Make a habit of creating components, styles, and variables if you want to take complete leverage of Figma. Otherwise, you're kind of going back to traditional software, to be frank, if you're not using them. These are the three backbone features Figma has into it that you should keep in mind, right, while utilizing or when you're creating anything in Figma. And when I talk about it, maybe I'll talk about brief about it in Figma, how to use it and how to work with that, in short, to use it. And it is a prototyping software. You can create a prototype as well. So I have a prototype already created here. You can see there are a few screens kind of interlinked here. This is a small prototype I have, which is kind of linked to each other. Over here you can see as a flow into this application to be there. Okay. So what we'll do as a next step for next 15 minutes is you ready, you know? So what we'll do is we will give you the certificate first. We'll take a picture and certificate here because at the end, people can start to get kind of scatter, I would say, because of your time limit and all you might have. Right. So I will spend one hour approximately on Figma now. But before we do that, we'll do a quick certification distribution for all of you for the certificate, right? And Astya, Nikita Bansal, Amy, Yashika Gupta, Khushi, Anushka Mehra, Madhu, Rishika Singh.